Chapter 1053. Rumble. The death energy was like a surging red flood, sweeping across the land and crashing into an energy shield, triggering an endless amount of sparks and electric arcs. Mechanical catastrophe. Francisco's Lord's avatar opened his arms and maintained the shield, fighting against the flood of death energy. The patterns on his mechanical body all lit up with the bright psionic light, and the thrusters on his back were already at full power, shooting out 6 deep blue tail flames dozens of meters long. However, he could not stop himself from retreating and was pushed back by the death energy. Turning around, he saw Red Devil Tolian and Desolate Beast Mercer hiding behind a shield, occasionally popping their heads out to cast shockwave blast or offensive spells before quickly retreating. Seeing this, mechanical catastrophe, Francois was furious. "You're clearly a melee fighter, yet you're acting like cowards, hiding behind me. What? Are you two using me as a cover? Stop messing around, attack." Francisco was furious. The battle had already lasted for a while, and the situation on several battlefields had changed. Blackstar and Kasuna were still fighting fiercely, and more mechanical troops broke through Kasuna's defense line and came to support Hela. Since Hela had more and more helpers, she was free to strengthen her attacks, causing Tolian and Mercer to become more and more cautious. Originally, the 3 of them still had the upper hand, but now the situation was showing signs of equalizing. The main reason was the mechanical troops that Kasuna had leaked out. With Blackstar's mechanical force bonuses, they were quite strong and could not be ignored. They perfectly played the role of the best teammates and stirred up *T on the battlefield. The fleet battlefield outside the atmosphere was not looking good either. The mechanical troops controlled by Francisco were being invaded by Han Zhao's virtual presence. From time to time, mechanical soldiers would turn around and attack their own people, causing a portion of the fleet to break free from the restraints and provide support to Hela with long-range attacks, distracting the 3 of them. Mechanical catastrophe. Francisco had to deal damage, tank damage, restrain the fleet, and even split his attention to guard the mechanical army's underwear in the virtual world to prevent Blackstar from tearing them apart. Being both a father and a mother at the same time, Francisco felt very tired. "It's too hard for me. I can't even sit in jail in peace." Only Sagman's side could give him some comfort. At this moment, Sagman and Taylor were in a good situation, and they were about to destroy all the Stargates. Once the 2 of them complete their mission, they'll be able to come over and help. At that time, we'll be able to break the stalemate and obtain an absolute advantage. We'll be able to crush Hela to death. He raised his head and looked at Kasui. He and Hela were arcane fighting with the not far away Taylor with countless attacks. Then looked at Blackstar. Bang, bang. The situation beyond watching. Once the Silo was taken, he made up his mind. And then it wasn't intended to take down light of her this trump card. At this moment, he made even a calamity rage facing Han Zhao's thousands of extremely powerful. He felt that it would be long facing Han Zhao's and opened up many of them as Han Zhao calm down. Among them, it was like the same time wanted to Sagman he did not want to come here for nothing. This forbidden spell if he could take the opportunity to Abigail stood on the side. It was also very the forces on the battlefield range was however it could be cast for me. Seeing Han Zhao, he would never have the atmosphere. Everyone felt because the arcane pressure and it could another Hela took this opportunity to escape the insanity beyond trade. Taylor not Zhao sized up ready to use the lineup. He still Sagman's heart just he felt deeply ashamed. He recalled not only did he remember that one of them was from the bottom of this moment. He did not want to give up the members as a result. Now rapidly approaching was astonishing. "I'm here." Only someone coming back in recovery. Everyone knew about it, so they were not extremely. The other teammates, the strongest him beyond tone was crystal light, but there was an arcane power at new press all his recovery ability. He was already unwilling to surround it. It was a mechanism he could be considered as soon as he was Hela. At least if he presented the He would join both sides. They were made his combat figure only even if they worked together. Therefore, they would more noteworthy open and felt that their only request for Chow remember was he had the reason they attacked as to why they only held kills so much man. He turned around, and that was because they realized the radiance. They did not want to fight. Later on, also had the step after beyond. Black Star had the strongest. They did not know if everyone the other the next second Han Chow tried beyond on the other side. Exactly, the Crimson Snake for that identity. They did not know whether that fight he had intercepted. Terrifying, fearless figure was nimble. Came to figures main radiance's group scattered his face. Everyone present suddenly if they were not her expression. She also understood at this time. Although she could hold on for a while, amidst the flood of priority, she knew that they felt that one who was so silly. I'm afraid we won't. Don't worry, like a baseball. I didn't expect him. Han Zhao's laugh sounded fun. Sackman stared at Hano's a little bit. Along with him, this familiar any other beyond. Hades would redact Sierra had a risk every time. Had Chow and one of them. Five of you from the RA. She could not combat. Although we had a Black Star was not the others. We shot only your main body. All of the fight us instead. Severely unable to reinforcements no rush. This time, at the same time, the other Sierra in the main hall and was also strong. His face was filled with his flames wrapped around. He held his broken stare, revealing a even with the help of beyond. Sierra would look down at what I beyond. Sorokin shut down his cup. As long as I have this moment, your excellency, what other Trump cards shot all the beyond kept herself calm. Even in his opinion, thought about how their hearts worried about shots. They would be able to hold it out. Sorokin was impatient. They were all tasted broken. Sierra's man very simple. There was only one, as long as one way left. What kind of palm technique? I can only try my best. Was more than happy to add. He actually has such a trump card. The thick beard veers through the Stargate. He had already issued an order for some officers to bring. He turned his head to look at the severed arm. The energy blast of the explosion cut off blood shields of the defense fleet, so that they would not be able to arrive. Triggering plasma, then ensure that he used his pugilist energy. The Stargate station has been destroyed. It's better to ask. Let's go. If the dynasty new arm would not want to continue fighting, the nature of the matter to the other parts of the cluster of killing in was golden much more than under the Black Star. Sierra and casually suddenly severed arm not be a floating stream as long as we can and left leaving no trace behind. If we have to fight the dynasty's dragon head on light, golden ethereal and radiance, suppressing the shock, he headed straight for Gila. TSK did not attack. You have so many because he knew that activating the space observed everyone's expression summoning skills. Took out his communicator, quietly floated to contacted his office. Looking at already sharing a bunch of have you arrived at the Stargate station? When the teleportation device was strange, the officers on the screen trembling, creating a rather large number of summoned beasts. The Root's expression changed. Stood facing the temporarily intercept the rest of the beyond summoning. It's the Mecha Empire's everyone knew in their led by their whether they would he was good at summoning. We can't, but that did not mean that he did not negotiate. Suddenly stood up and knocked. It was just that he was not that good at it. Spilling a Black Star's made a super. His expression was one of the harsh words. Why is it not accepting my men for having many tricks? The Beyond they were both peak beyond. No matter what battle style they were. After all, not they could always turn it into a cannon. Even if Black Star arrived, regardless of what he was not willing to provoke the he's alone. As long as they could probably unwilling to have a direct confrontation with the other party. Small number of skeptical soldiers were able to pass thus. He has no choice but to suppress his non-friendly sin and solve the problem. Sorokin was also a little surprised. Understanding, he took many expressions of the beyond, but he did not engage present army head much from the attitude. It was only because Taylor was Black Star's main body was here. They definitely do not. If it were an ordinary person against this would probably have already taken precautions. Sagman's because the one who first was related to light energy. It could be no turning matter fighting was extremely. Although they were afraid, the Mecha Empire had their eyes body shook off the now that they have taken treasure that tried to stop so many beyond entered the battlefield. There was no need to be afraid of Black. Sorokin could, in the eyes of Sagman, you're finally felt a headache. Black Star was just with the Mecha and mechanical capacity. He could protect himself. Francisco had he would not be able to do anything. While everyone originally thought that the operation silently waited, Sagman and Taylor looked behind to catch up and saw the meaning. He felt a little uncertain. Emergency Sorokin had also known to use the forbidden spell. Mission introduction. The two of them was not say anything has caused once Madison decided light energy shockwave was definitely her powerful talent cast out like he would only target Rutan's troops, showing their ethereal and radiance. Have decided to take explosions occurred in the Mecha Empire mechanical soldiers mission requirements. I originally survived that he was just going to watch instantly surrounded 750 million. I didn't expect she had no choice to stop the operation. All her attacks plus one legendary point. He's really bored. Random two of them. I'm afraid that this combat power was complete. Sorokin could not help but
it was like an additional mission
among the
hundreds of
cooperate with the dynasty's reinforcements. Only if you had qualifications beyond him raid a super.
The Mecha Empire
additional 300 kilograms.
Every time you capture him,
directly contacted the Mecha Empire, you'll be able to draw one
was on the other side.
Flying.
This is probably the most difficult
in the battlefield.
Manason's
face
Han
appeared on the screen.
Han Zhao's
Did you
the
forget
number
our
of
beyond gray
Hela's
meeting present was similar to
Hela
reduced
reduced
my
my
lifespan
chat
and
window,
killed
but
Han
Hela
Zhao
won't be
not
able to
have
block
any
the
reactions.
You want me to just let it go?
Garou
had
had
Hela,
said cold,
but he had a face
Do you
more
think
than
that
I
I want
have.
to peek beyond
Kasuyi asked,
the last person
he
who
hired
faced a
Hela?
similar
Send my
situation
don't want others to
Avatar
offend
Black
Star.
Star. My
And
mechanic
his outcome was to
afraid of
obtain
offending me
500
because of you.
install you.
She's already
so it's
luxurious
impossible for me.
single
I hope that you
set
won't
dynasty.
pursue this matter.
Furthermore,
However,
if she really
join
dies,
mission reward
you
was
won't
also
have to follow
unprecedentedly.
At that time,
shook his
as
head
long as he captured a
He
beyond
said that
shield
Black
anymore
Star will
days.
take revenge.
He would be able to
shook his
draw
head.
one
You think that I'm
life from
afraid of him?
Acting
the more
was
he
not
captured,
he's the
he
one
did
who
not
chances he would be able to
if he wants to
draw.
play.
Although the
main
water
body
he
was
had given in was
the
enough.
chances
Alright,
of
ethereal
let's see if he
and
can afford
Kasuyi
killing
cannot
Hela.
do it
I'll get rid of his right hand. It would be
probably have to
explain.
retreat.
Garutin
immediately.
said cold.
Why don't
I don't
you use
know
it
when
as
he's
a
saying
saying
when
critical
the more one
moment
thought about
interrupt
it, so I'll
your
have to
team.
rely
Anger
on
one
myself
would be
to say that
every
it was
time
an
he
incident.
thought about
Han
how
psychic
Zhao had
power
already
made
made
up
such
such
a
a
huge
huge
loss,
loss,
so
so
he
he
was
did
not
even
wavered.
insulted
There's no
by Black Star in
possibility
front of him.
of accidentally
He would be calmed down a little,
then
I hope that you'll
just
think about the big
on the way.
picture.
He had received
That's the most
support from
convenient
Black Star
voice.
Palace.
I'm not the
saying
one
it's
who's
not
talking about
great.
whether your
They had
Lord's
come
avatar
plus.
has the
That's your
ability
big picture.
to
Aims
defeat
had already
my
accepted the
avatar.
challenge.
I still have to stay
Everything
here
was
and
strange.
prevent
Any
Con
accident.
Technician
I'm giving
had
you
always
that old guy
maintained
from
contact
Mecha
with the
Empire.
base
This is
camp.
between
So he
Radiant
knew
and
about
Black
the
Star
current
situation,
and it has nothing to
Traveler
do
had
with
Why are you
trying
to restrain some of them?
Do you really think
Han Zhao was
leader of the Beyond
Grade?
What was
the Lord's
avatar
cultivation
have the
shared
right
strength
to interfere?
This was
in my
business.
body?
This was
So
so
let me tell you,
professional.
one could
Don't be
exist
so
at
shameless.
times.
If Han Zhao
Manison
was
word
tracked
is that
down
won't
in
work.
camp,
Looked at
what
his
should we
main
do?
body would be in
Radiance
trouble.
will come out at
Interesting.
time,
Snorted
purposely
and
drawing
said,
my attention.
crushed
At
the
that
communicator.
time, easier
I can
fruit
turn
aside
around
and
and
walk
Radiance.
toward the door.
And
And her
Trap, where are you
situation will
going?
not be
Han
so
Zhao narrowed his
hardly
eyes.
asked.
If Hela can
Traveler
hold on
was
for
a
now,
neutral
the Mecha
beyond
Empire
great
and
race
receptive
on the
surface.
surface.
I can't
Have
just
the
sit here
actor had a
and
close
wait for
relationship
Xiao Pan
with
to
them.
super
The
cluster.
two
I'm gonna bring
actors
them
were
back now.
quietly
Very
looking
few
for
people knew
time,
about this.
but
I'll
at this
destroy
time,
a few
however,
Stargates
something
daily.
to him
Unexpected happened.
Traveler's
Garutin
identity
walked
was
straight
not
out
a
of
secret.
under the
On the
crazy
front line
exposed
battlefield,
long
Black
ago.
Star
Hela
portion
revealed a
the
slight
battle
could
had
be
been
that
going on for
mechanical
quite a while.
catastrophe for
And the
instance.
situation
The
had
opportunity
completely
turned
super
cluster
cluster
civilization on this
releasing
after
an
the Radiant
extremely
Federation
strong
fleet.
plasma
Han Zhao's
eyes
eyes
from
from
a
magnetic
magnetic
field,
and he
rejected
through
the
the
gas.
They once again
Traveler's
by
identity
down
was
to
a
the
sensory
implied
from
on
the
the
outside
outside
world.
sizzle.
Even
The
if
electric
Radiance
arcs crackled,
the two sides
Imperial's body
fought
working
around
together.
the planet.
Her
movements
and the light of
revealed
the cannons,
bigger
the
flash
supercluster
civilization
and
would
the
seem to be
chased
considered
after
a galactic.
Otherwise,
even
more
more
powerful
powerful
identity
control
Kasui's
with the
doppelganger
exposed
was still fighting.
Looks like there's more to this.
Strange
Han Zhao
since we joined the team, and with his
He did not
body
care
a little
too
much
much
about
about
the truth.
his
His
doppelganger was
anyway,
ash
he
fight
only
back
knew
and
one
forth with
thing,
Sierra,
but before
which
he
was
could
that
think
the
about it,
superstar
at the same
shouted
time,
Taylor, he purposely separated the battle. Use the scroll. This
I've
void
already
movie
prepared.
others might not know
help
without
out
saying
saying
anything,
anything,
but he
Taylor
tore
tore
open
open
there was no
magic
need for him
scroll
to
with
investigate.
this way.
He
The
could just
balance of
scroll
power
lame
suddenly
suddenly
shone
shone
bright
bright
behind
behind
Traveler.
Walhalla, and it would be
Han
just
Zhao
a
was
1,000-year-old
secretly
you
glad
dared
about
to
this.
cause
If
trouble
both
in
of
my
them
countless
were
pale
sure of
white
guts,
magic
the
would
situation
have
would have
shot
been
out of the
very
scroll.
dangerous.
When we reached the main
In that
camp,
case,
you would have had no
free.
choice
Han
but to
Zhao
carry
would
out
have
hitting
fun.
Helan.
This
The next
however,
moment,
Hela
even if there
served
were
as
actors
actors
on
on
Han
Zhao's
Zhao's
side.
side.
The
First
situation
generation
beyond
Hela
grade
was
was
covered
not
very
strange,
pale
but
white
followed
radiance,
silently to the
and
side.
the overall
Imperial's
total
outline
was like
was
10
beyond
beyond confronting
grade
Han
enchantment.
Zhao,
And their
it
attacks
attacked
were
itself to Hela's
overwhelming.
body.
Actually, you shouldn't have come.
After
Hela's
successfully
expression
connecting
was
female pattern
combat.
slowly
The
the way
super
she opened her
saw
arms
Hela
in order to
had
save
no
her way of
emotion.
fighting
Han
back.
Zhao's main body
This had
strange
nothing to
force,
do
which
with
was
the
equivalent to
recovery
walking into
ability.
the trap.
It was a
It was
surrounded by
surrounded
more than
no matter how many
grade.
times
Her
she
body
recovered.
was fixed
Hela
in
knew
the
that compared to her
and her
if
energy
not for
was
the
the
fact
fact
that
that
she
she
could
could
absorb
absorb
a roar,
she could not move at all.
ethereal and
Hella's
Hela's
revival
ability
even had
would have been
universal
universal
treasures
treasures
like
like
the
focus
evolution
furthermore,
cube.
The control time was
did
limited.
not care about
So
the
sad
lost
if these
man did
enemies
not
took
change
away
their
their plans at
treasure.
the last
He
minute.
roared
With
in the
so
group
many
chat
beyond
this opportunity
great,
used all his
target
attack
blaster
methods to
to
power
power
his
his
hunger.
naturally not
Totally
as
originally,
Mercer
Hella
immediately
thought
reacted.
that she was
Han Zhao's
definitely
did
going to
not
die
know
and
what was
wanted to
going
see
on.
They would not let go of
such
and it was
a good
close to the
opportunity
upper
to
limit
attack.
of his
However,
both unleashed
when he
their
really came,
strongest
if this
attack.
continued,
Rumble
could not help
Hella's
but worry
figure is
about
instantly
Han Zhao.
mechanical
And
catastrophe.
all along,
Francisco,
Hella's
set up
life
a
motto
layer
had
of
been to
space
crush
stabilization.
bright.
She rarely wavered, but it was actually about her
after the Radiant Federation fleet
Kisui's
arrived.
doppelganger set up a
would have
second
saved
turnaround,
you, causing the
Han Xiao
space
turned
cells
around
in this area
and gave her a
Su
to
Ling,
Ling,
who still have a
You're
trick
already
up his
Han
sleeve.
Xiao.
If
If
you
you
want to
want
ask
to ask
open the dimension,
he did
it's
not
because I
design
am
to
here
negotiate
secondary
anymore.
dimensional
Hella bit her
armor
lips
psychic
lightly,
power,
so he could not
gun
suddenly
summon,
took
and
the
he
initiative.
grabbed all the
The only
mechanical
thing he
jobs,
could use
including
was
Han
Han
Zhao's
Xiao's
razor
avatar.
powers.
Therefore,
them
they could only use
towards
suddenly
Hella's
felt
battle
away with the
provide stabilization coming from Hela's hand. Damn, however, Radiance popped up, flying in material both. Han Xiao abilities can now increase the combat power. Not only did they have more Niza, however, they also had a beyond grade. So I can only not know Hela's situation. Provide long range said Hela nonchalantly after a few seconds. Han Xiao knew the virtual Aurora's ability was like to increase the combat. Although this wave of attacks seemed if the mechanical army, so I can only share my life. Just one would only be able to knock out her revival at this moment. With 10 however, spoke with this means that I might have to use a the other side is not since your main body is here. Ethereal and Hela's instant revival ability was not more or less effect. He could take felt that Han Xiao, however, can only use 7 Xiao felt waiting might have to change his plan. So he did not plan to continue the confrontation. He turned around and looked. A dense life, energy. Suddenly, Han Xiao looked back at Hela's position, stopped smiling, and golden life, energy. How about we make a deal into the sky? As long as you agree to unseal the vigorous aura, made everyone stunned at the same time. Not only will we retreat, and the other but will also help you deal bombarding with indiscriminately. Sierrans were shocked to find that although they kept causing Han Xiao had used those shocking injuries, endless potential in that attack just now after the effect of the forbidden spell and Comic Glide. Hela broke free. He had already arrived at the edge of the battlefield. Her Crimson First Edition was already in tatters. Originally, he wanted to kill an ordinary beyond grade wounds, but he did not expect Sierra to take the initiative to nourish her body. Han Xiao had no choice opened up closed to unleash the power he had not even a scar was left behind. Thick skin, and her skin became smooth. And although the lethality of Sagman and the others from widened their eyes peak beyond grade, how is this pugilist lose its such a terrifying recovery? It was enough to make Sierra. How does she have such seeing that the plan was difficult to carry out? Why does it feel a little familiar? He gave up on the plan of the next moment hostages. Everyone turned around to achieve his goal. Looked at Han Zhao's Lord's At this time, Sierra did not know that Kasui was an Black Star's ability. He felt that Black Star was alone and needed help. If there were any similarities between the two of them, then our ethereal could this be the traditional ability of immediately Star people, so that you at this moment, Kasui's voice sounded faint. It'll still benefit Black Star. Are you Blue Star people? Kasui suddenly blinked and said, "No, we don't have that. Radiance has an idea." Han Xiao smiled. I'll also propose a deal on behalf. If it wasn't his Lord's avatar, go ahead. His main body. Han Xiao looked at him. He would probably take a deep breath. Go ahead. Hela had opened up the distance. I know that your space-time aura is very magical. Otherwise, and can imprison beyond burst out with life energy. She actually learned a new ability at the last. You and I will work together to capture the. Are you also a main character type character? The Radiant Federation. That doesn't make sense. Sell them. You're clearly a villain. Then our ethereal will have the chips to get the activating the distance life link with Aurora. What do you think was equivalent Sierran's to opening up her conception? And he coldly glared at Kasui, and she could fly just the two of them were arguing in an instant. Han Xiao combat power didn't slowly said, but she always had a superhero. I'll reject all as long as Aurora came to beat up my people. Hela had terrifying recovery. Don't even think about it. Endurance. All of you beyond grade. As Han Xiaoxin's head twitched, Sierran's and he almost wanted to call the police. And he looked at Han Xiao. I thought I was already crazy enough. But I didn't expect you to be such a cheat. This was not in the script. If Hela also had this accessory, but the other 10 beyond grade previous as of Radiance, he didn't dare to imagine what the result would be. And stared at Han Xiao. It was a pity that before Hela's cheat, is this guy crazy? It was one person fighting more than 10 beyond grade, as again, two of which are Hela's aura surged. Is this not battle intense? After the initial shock, the current Aurora could already use this method. You're looking down on us side by side with her. Do you think we beyond her escape alive all made of paper crisis? Black Star, as the saying went, situation. Sisters of the same mind. So what if your main body is here? Do you really think you can fight already all of us different from before? We're retreating. She didn't because we're afraid of Aurora's help. Are you serious? The recovery of a beyond Sierran's face, a super required even more. You destroyed my frontline stronghold, but Aurora had also entered my deputy army commander. So her stamina was now you want to retreat in front of me, giving her the ability to do whatever. Do you think that's possible? Boom. Hearing Hela's tone was Sagman, and his energy fluctuated higher. Didn't know if they should continue to attack. Everyone's eyes stopped in midair and did not continue to approach. Sierran was Kasui also watched from afar. You better stop what they were doing. Looking at the current situation, at each other and we might as well go all the way and make you. The atmosphere was filled with a strange atmosphere. Hela's expression, however, at this moment, stood everyone in front of present suddenly felt a strange fluctuation. Energy spread out. They all turned their heads. No matter what decision Han Xiao made, not far away, no matter how strong the enemy was, a Radiant Federation would fight side by side with Han Xiao without any hesitation, and appeared on the battlefield. Han Xiao held her shoulder, 7 beyond behind him, as stood in a row, said, looking at everyone present. The
Don't be
gazes
so
of both
nervous.
sides
I
collided
alone
in
am
midair.
enough.
Kasui looked
The
up
next moment,
and said, an
"They're
earth-shattering energy
Seeing such a
fluctuation
flashy
exploded
entrance,
from
Han
Han Zhao's
Zhao could not
body.
help but praise
Sizzle.
the other party.
The violent golden mechanical
Radiant Federation
force
was like light in
joining
the battle.
whips, flashing crazily.
Chapter
Han Zhao's energy
1054.
fluctuation in the Black
seemed to be
Star
soaring
Palace. The
endlessly.
battle between Ames
Facing
and
more than
Traveler
10 beyond
was reaching
grade
its
as
climax. Han
under the
Zhao
control
did
of
not
the
dare
force
be
field.
careless.
The satellite
and used his
brick
trump
was like a
card without
gigantic
hesitation.
iron fist.
Mecha Empire
It shattered
shattered
Traveler's
the
magic
ancient
shield
one.
again and again.
Tyrant summoned
sending him flying
polar
everywhere
channel
like
flow,
a baseball.
cellular
It seemed
overdrive.
like Ames had the absolute
Dragon
upper
Emperor
hand
summoned card
and was beating
Force
Traveler
field,
into a
dragon body.
However,
Nero
she was
summoned
not
card.
happy at all.
Perfect
Instead,
mechanical sense.
she became even
the
more
effects
vigilant.
of multiple
There was a
character
reason why
summon
Traveler
cards
was
stacked
so weak.
together.
For some
At this
reason,
moment,
he
the
had
energy
used
fluctuation
doll
that Han
replacement
Zhao
many times.
was emitting
He was selling his health
terrifying
like
even to
crazy,
peak beyond
and his
grade
attributes
S.
were dropping like crazy.
It was as if
It
he
even
was
stung the
intentionally hurting
senses
himself.
of everyone
At the
present.
same time,
The expressions of
uncomfortable
Sagman
evil
and the
aura
others
around him
changed
became
drastically.
more and more obvious.
The anger in their eyes
Things might change
turned into
if we
shock.
delay.
We
The
can't
power that
continue
Han
fighting with
Zhao
him.
was
Ames
emitting
looked
right
around
now
and
far
nodded at the
exceeded
base
their
in the distance.
understanding of
The
Han
officers on the
Zhao's
watchtower
strength.
could see
Even
her movement.
Kasui,
She was hinting to
calm all this
activate the
while,
space
was shocked
stabilizing
at this
trap
moment
and cut
Han
off
Zhao's
Traveler's
eyes lit
escape
up
route.
like two little blue
Seeing
signs.
this,
Let me
Haluz
see how many of
immediately
you
gave
can
the
run
order.
away.
The
Without
ambush
waiting
team
for the beyond
is in
grade,
position.
as from
Listen up
radiance
and
activate.
ethereal to
Before he
recover
could
from
finish,
their shock. The
Han
situation
Zhao's
suddenly
body trembled.
changed.
Mechanical
Suddenly,
force shot
Traveler's
out
body
and connected with the
exploded
Mech
purple
Legion
and
like a
green
lightning
energy.
spiderweb.
It was so
The next
thick
moment,
that
the
it looked
steel
like a
torn
flowing
formed by the
liquid.
Mech Legion
It looked like
poured
the
down.
tentacles of an octopus, with particles that looked like suction cups. It
Chapter
also looked like
1058.
boiling potions that
Sagman
kept
and
bubbling,
the others
and
were
still in a
expanding.
state of shock.
The energy
from Han Zhao's
twisted
energy
and
wave.
danced
They did not
crazily,
expect Black Star
condensing
to really
into
attack.
translucent
They were shocked
greenish purple
and hurriedly
energy
took
tentacles
defensive measures
that were almost solid.
Rumble.
The
Instead
next
of
moment,
saying that the
the
Traveler
figures
had
had more
released
than
the
10
energy
beyond grade,
it was
as were
more
instantly
accurate to
drowned
say
in the sea
that the
of
energy
Mech Legion.
tentacles were
As
pushing
soon as the
open
battle
the
began,
Traveler's body.
the shock
and
in
trying to
everyone's
squeeze
hearts became
themselves out.
even more intense.
Ames's eyes narrowed.
They felt an
She did not have the
unparalleled
habit
pressure
of
from the
watching
Mech
others
Legion.
transform.
If it was an army
Without
of
saying anything,
ordinary beyond
she
grade
gathered her
mechanics,
force field. They would have been
circles
able to
of
kill
force
them
field
easily.
spun rapidly
However,
around her like
Han
small
Zhao's Mech
whirlpools.
Legion made
They
them
quickly
feel
turned
as if
into
they were
the shape of
trapped
drill.
in a quagmire.
After pausing for
Only
a moment,
Kasui
they
and
suddenly
Sierra
shot
had the
toward
ability
Traveler.
to move
The next moment,
freely.
the purple
This was
and
not
green
only because
energy
the
around
size of the
Traveler
Mech Legion
twisted
brought by
and
Han
wrapped
Zhao's
around
main
him,
body
forming
was
an outer
dozens of
layer.
times larger.
The force field
than the
hit
two
the
mechanics
outer
present.
layer, but
It was
could not
also
penetrate.
because the strength
It only
of the
pushed him a
mechanical
distance
army
away.
was
He looked
beyond their
unscathed.
imagination.
It's
The
useless,
bonuses given by
useless,
mechanical
useless.
force,
Traveler
mechanical
laughed like a
soldiers were a
madman.
whole level
It was as if he had
higher.
become a
Han Zhao
completely
already
different
had
person.
the perfect
His
mechanical
entire
sense,
being was
talent.
filled with an
Now that he used
indescribable
Nero's
evil
character
aura.
summon card,
He gave
and
off a
stacked
very
two
filthy
perfect
feeling.
mechanical sense
Just by
talents.
looking at him,
His machinery
a large number of
affinity
army
reached
warriors
a
felt
whole
their
new level.
hearts
Facing this
palpitating and their
overwhelming
breath
pressure,
short.
the
In the way the
beyond
interface
grade
described
as
it,
radiance,
everyone
and
had passed
ethereal
a
did
willpower
not have
test.
time to think about
Ames
anything
kept
else.
attacking.
They
But the
subconsciously
purple
worked
energy
together
surrounding
to block
Traveler
the
was
attacks
extremely
of the
tough.
Mech Legion. It actually
Boom.
blocked
The
all of her
battle
attacks.
erupted.
She did not know
instantly
what kind of
entering
energy
a
it
white-hot
and intense state.
At this moment,
Turning into a
Traveler
scene of
suddenly
a great
raised his
chaotic
hands
battle.
high.
In the
His
endless
eyes
black
filled with
tide of the
eagerness.
Mech Legion,
The expert
there
in
were
front
more
of
than
me
10
is
light
the
balls
sacrifice your
moving
husband
in
has
this
offered
ocean.
to me.
Countless
Answer my
beams
call,
of
my
light
lovely wife.
gathered toward these
Rumble.
light balls.
Energy blossomed
These light
with a
balls were the
loud bang,
battlefield where the
spreading
Mech
out
Legion
endlessly.
surrounded
The black
beyond
velvet-like
grade
space
ass.
was dyed
How did his
purple and
strength
green
soar to
and the
such a
two
level?
colors intertwined
Sagman's
with each
tone
other.
was filled with
The
shock.
nature of this area
The last time Black
changed
Star
at this
went
moment.
all out was
Warning.
during the Battle of
Warning.
Planet Lighthouse.
The space-time
Now
coefficient
that more than 20
is
years
fluctuating
have passed,
violently.
this is the second time
And the
he's
wave
gone all
crest
out,
has broken
and he's
through the
actually
stable
become
safety
so much
line of
stronger.
reality.
Taylor was
Space
shocked,
stabilizer
panicked,
overloaded.
and envious.
Warning.
The
More than 20
stabilizing
years
anchor
ago,
was
these
damaged.
people from Ethereal
Stability
who had
failure,
participated
requesting
in the
an
Battle of Planet
increase
Lighthouse
in the
still
number of
remember Han
space
Zhao's
stabilizers.
performance clearly.
Analyzing
Now that more than
event
20
model.
years had passed.
Analysis complete.
They knew that Black
Matched
Star
similarity
had
rate,
become stronger,
100%.
but they did not expect
Event
it to be this strong.
secondary dimension
This
descends.
level of pressure.
If space
it
was a
feels
piece
like
of
the
paper,
Mecca Empire.
the space-time stability
Kasui's expression
coefficient
was
would be
grave.
the degree.
He was also
of
within
wrinkling on
Han
the paper.
Zhao's attack
The more
range.
stable it was,
so he was mainly
the
dodging.
smoother the paper
He was
would be.
thinking about what to
At
do
this
next.
moment,
And
this
did
piece
not
of paper was
immediately
crumpled into a
counterattack.
ball.
He could understand
and another piece
why
of paper
Black Star attacked.
representing a
As the
secondary
party being
dimension
attacked,
wrapped
Black
it up.
Star could not
Secondary
let them easily
dimensions were
retreat
dangerous
and had to take
and
the
wonderful,
attitude to counterattack.
and they were born for different
However,
reasons.
the strength Black
If they
Star's
descended
strength
into
this
the main
time exceeded
universe,
Kasui's
they would change the
expectations.
nature of the space in a certain area,
At this
turning
moment,
it into a secondary
Sierran
dimension.
spoke in a deep
Most
voice,
of the time,
This was
unable to
disaster.
hide the shock in his
Han
tone.
Xiao had once seen a treasure called the
ultimate
Shadow
channel
Lantern
flow
in the dynasty.
cellular overdrive.
The wick of the lantern was a
Hearing
fragment
this,
of
everyone's
the Shadow
shocked.
Dimension's
Isn't
origin
this
energy,
an explosive
and its effect
skill
was
of
to
the
summon
pugilist
the
class?
Shadow Dimension.
Why does Blackstar
Traveler's
know how to
current
use it?
actions were
Isn't he a
similar to
mechanic?
this ability.
I didn't see wrong.
This secondary dimension,
The aura
filled with
Blackstar is
evil
giving off
aura,
is the
slowly
feeling
opened
move.
outside
Squeezing
Blackstar
out
Palace.
one's own potential
Aims
in
and
exchange
the many
for a
fleets
higher
were in the
level
dark
strength.
purple space.
Sierran
As
said
if they've been
firmly.
swallowed
Let's
by
not
this
talk about why
secondary
Blackstar can use
endless
this
energy
move first.
tentacles.
The principle
stretched
won't
out of
change.
thin air.
This explanation was
at least
quickly
100,000 meters
and everyone's
long.
expression
They waved
became
unconsciously.
They looked
And the
past the,
fleets
mech
were
legion
smashed
and
into
looked at Han
chaos,
Xiao with
their
shock
shields
and surprise.
flashing with
Does this
electric
mean
arcs.
that
Ames
Blackstar is willing
controlled
to burn
her
his own
force
potential
field
in order to keep us
constantly
here?
crush the
He could have made us
tentacles,
retreat,
but
on
new
our own
tentacles
accord.
continue
Is there
to
need to
stretch
go this
out from
far?
this secondary
If that was the
dimension.
case, it was not
Seeing
surprising
this,
that Blackstar
she could only
had such
target
strength.
Traveler's body
After all,
and continuously
it was only
release her
temporary.
force field.
However,
Bang!
this level
Bang.
of explosive power
Traveler did not
was
dodge
still very
and just
scary.
floated in place.
Seeing Han
palms
Xiao's
with
firm
purple
attitude,
imprints
many
kept
people
waving,
started to think
and
about
purple-green waves of
Kasui's
energy
side inwardly.
followed the
Originally,
trajectory
he was a
of his
little
palms.
unhappy when
It was
he
as
saw
if the
Han
energy was
Xiao
endless
suddenly stealing the show
and under his
and planned
control
to stop him.
It easily
However,
extinguished
seeing Blackstar's
Ames's
firm
force
attitude,
field.
Kasui
I
put
was
away
once
the
defeated
idea
by
of
Olu
going all
and
out.
witnessed his
Since
terrifying
Blackstar had
ability.
put in a lot of
This
effort,
prompted me
he planned
to
give
embark
face
on the path
and given a
of
Blackstar.
pursuing
After
secondary
all,
dimensions.
he had to act to the
Purple
end.
and green
and he believed that
lines
Blackstar
spread
knew
on
what he was
Traveler's
doing.
face.
On the side,
And his condition
Hela saw
continued
Han
to
Xiao's
recover.
power. He
and
laughed
felt
wildly.
refreshed.
Originally,
Finally,
I found a new
she was
power.
shocked and excited.
Let me introduce
but when she
this
heard
secondary
this,
dimension
she
is
was
called
dumbfounded.
evil convergence.
The next second,
And Hela's
it is my
eyes
wife.
suddenly turned red.
In
Filled
its
with
body,
rage,
I can
and
absorb
killing intent.
endless
She did not
energy.
expect
Tell
Blackstar to burn
come
his
out.
potential at all
You're no
costs.
match for me.
Wasn't the
You
reason
haven't
why
defeated me
Blackstar
yet. Did this
Ames
to save
narrowed
her.
her eyes.
A heart take
and
that
a solemn
pierced his
look
soul
flashed across
suddenly
her face.
gushed out.
Traveler glanced
flooding his
around
heart like a
and saw
flood.
countless
Hela
fleets
turned her head
rising
stiffly,
from Blackstar
and the way
Palace,
she looked at Han,
setting up
Xiao
more space
changed.
stabilization.
Only
anchors
regret
around.
and guilt
Seeing
were
this,
left.
He did not
and
care.
she could not
and
control
smiled
her
coldly.
emotions.
After causing
Hela
such a
open her
huge
mouth to say
commotion,
something,
Blackstar
but
would
Han
definitely
Xiao
not
waved
sit
his
back
hand
and
and
interrupted
nothing.
her. His goal
Saying
had been
casually,
achieved, and
"Don't
now it
worry.
was just a
You
matter
don't
of
have
when
to say
Blackstar
anything.
would come. I'm fine.
However,
he still
I'm
had to
sorry.
add fuel to the
Hela
fire
pursed her
and
lips,
continue to put
clenched
pressure
her
on
fists,
Blackstar. And
with this
rushed
thought in
into the
mind,
battle formation.
Traveler looked at
without
Ames
saying
and
anything.
licked his lips.
The death
Then I'll
energy
cheer
was
you
like
up
a
first.
storm. Emerald
It
Star
followed
cluster
her
toward
Black
the
Star
ethereal
core
beyond
frontline
gray
battlefield.
battlefield. Her
The
raging
appearance of the
anger
Radiant
poured
Federation
out
toward the
attracted
enemy,
the attention
looking at
of
Hela's
everyone
uncontrollable
present.
killing
They all
intent.
stopped what they were doing
Han
and
Xiao
had
had a
different
helpless
expressions
expression.
on their faces.
The after effect
The ones who
of
appeared
polar
were the
channel
6
flow.
people led by
Cellular
Sierra,
overdrive was
and
to
Guardian
permanently
Romo,
increase
who was
the
providing
cost
remote
of
support,
upgrading
was
one's
not
character and
present.
ability by
126
7%,
beyond grade S,
which was equivalent
Hela's
to
heart
burning one's
sank,
potential.
and the excitement
However,
of
what
opening
these people
the
did not
distanceless
know
life
was that
quickly
Han
faded.
Xiao was
If these
using the
people were
tyrant's
here
character
to
summon
take her
card.
life, she felt that she had,
Although it could
no
only be
chance
used
of
once,
surviving.
the character
Even though she
summon
was
card
connected
would
to
not
Aurora's
have any
life
side
energy.
effects.
Aurora's
Sierran's
stamina
misjudgment
was limited,
caused
and it
everyone
would be
to
exhausted sooner
misunderstand.
or later.
So be it.
With so
It's not
many
a bad
beyond
thing.
grade,
In
as
fact,
working
it's
together,
beneficial
it was
to
enough
me.
to kill her
Han
countless
Xiao
times.
shook his head.
The
Of
way she
course,
saw it,
he would not explain.
even if her recovery
Some of these character
speed
summon
was
cards
amazing,
could only
it
be
was only
used
a matter
once,
of time before
temporarily
she
giving
died
him
in the
super
face
strength.
of such overwhelming
Using them in
strength.
exchange for
Plus,
permanent
having a
abilities
strong
was
recovery
definitely worth
speed
it.
did
He was
not
now
mean
filled with
that
an
she would not be
unprecedented
controlled
sense of
or
strength.
captured by the enemy.
The tyrant's character summon
Sister,
card
Aurora's
overclocked
anxious
his basic
came
attributes
through
and
telepathy.
ability.
Temporarily
felt the
reaching
life
the level
energy
of his next
continuously
promotion.
flowing
The dual
out of her
mechanical
body,
sense
and her
also
sharp
increased the
eyes
strength
gradually
of his mechanical
softened.
army.
She
With the two
subconsciously
stacked
turned to look at
together,
Han
his
Xiao's
strength
Lord's
had reached
avatar
a
in the
terrifying
sky.
level.
When they were
The
besieged
ones with the
earlier,
greatest enhancement
she had
were the
analyzed
elite
the situation
forces
and
and
felt
felt
that
that the
apostle
only way
weapon.
to save herself
Swoosh
was to
Red
successfully
Devil
connect
Tolian
with
leaned
Aurora.
back and
Therefore,
barely dodged
during the
psionic
battle,
crimes She had split her attention to thick magical energy shield was cut and tried to establish a link, and a deep wound appeared on his chest. It was unknown if it was because of the eruption of her potential at the critical moment of life. Tolian hurriedly swung his tail for some unknown reason, used the bone spurs, but the secondary dimension that acted Psionic Prime's mechanical had some changes. Psionic Prime gradually stopped absorbing and directly blocked the attack with his spear. Once this obstacle was eliminated, the spear and bone collided between the two, and a shockwave spread out. Tolian was a melee mage could finally share her energy on enhancing himself through the soul, so he had stacked a large number of enhancements. Just as everyone was watching, however, the Radiant Federation's fleet, who was surrounded by a large number of drones and mechanical powerful were dispatched to attack the defense fleet of the planet Stronghold. His apostle weapons are the other spaceships quickly
exclaimed.
changed their formation.
With a mechanical
the engineering
force boost from dual
spaceships came to the
mechanical
edge of the
sense.
formation.
Just Psionic Prime
released
alone was
arc-shaped
enough
mechanical
to make him
parts
feel pressure,
and started to assemble.
Furthermore,
The
Psionic Prime
multi-dimensional
was not
sky
the only
opening
one
transportation device.
The melee forces
They also
such
needed
as
to
heaven-suppressing
encircle
banner
the fleet
and
vertically
sky
and
spirit,
horizontally,
as well as the long-range
six
damage
radiant
dealers,
beyond grades,
such as Silver
as
Flash
quickly
and Crimson
approached the
Flame,
battlefield
were all
where
attacking
Hela
Tolian.
and the others
Han
were.
Zhao's plan
Sierran
was to
crossed
use
his
the
arms,
Mech Legion
looked down
to
at
restrain
Hela,
the others
Sagman,
while focusing the
and
elites
others
on one target.
and said coldly,
Sagman
"Looks
was
like we
also
arrived at
heavily
just the right
surrounded
time."
and was fighting
Kasui's
the Mech
avatar
Legion.
slowly
He could not help
flew
but
over.
feel annoyed
Even
when he heard
Radiant
Han
is
Zhao's
involved.
words.
You're so
Your
useless.
ethereal is really
However,
useless.
he could
You
not
still haven't
help
killed
his own
Hela,
people.
so he
Sierran
had no
said
choice
coldly.
but to provide
Since
help.
Radiant is here,
He turned around
their
and
goal
attacked
must
the
be the
apostle
same
weapons
as ours.
surrounding Tolian.
Why don't we work together
and
to
a
kill
powerful
Hela?
light energy shockwave
Sagman
shot
said
out.
with a deep voice.
At this
She
time,
just revealed a
countless
recovery ability
nanoparticles gushed
similar
out from the
to
middle
Black Star's.
and suddenly
If we
turned
work
into
together,
a large fortress,
we will have a higher chance
separating
of killing her.
Tolian's battlefield.
Hades rolled his eyes.
Streams of
and
light
suddenly
flowed
said,
on the surface
"All right,
of this large
since we all have
mechanical
the same goal,
fortress,
let's
which
form an
quickly
alliance."
gathered and formed
Sierran
a pale,
paused,
golden,
thought about it,
semi-transparent
and did
light
not
screen,
explain their true
blocking
goal.
the light energy
There were many
shockwave.
people in Ethereal,
Boom, boom, boom.
and it was not the
Sagman's
right time
attacks
to reveal
all
their
landed
cards.
on this pale.
It was
golden
best to
light
work
screen.
together first.
In an instant,
Hearing
electric
this,
arcs shot
Sagman
out,
and the
dazzling
others
the
were
entire
overjoyed,
area,
but
but Hela's heart sank.
Looks like today
Very
is
soon,
the day I die.
the light from the
This time,
explosions
Han
dissipated,
Zhao's Lord's
and this
avatar
light
landed
screen
beside
did
her,
not move
took
at
out a
all.
new set
It
of
flickered
compressed
slightly
the crimson
and
snake,
blocked
first
this wave
generation
of
mechanical
attacks,
suit,
protecting this
opened it
mechanical
instantly,
fortress
and helped
tightly.
Hela
What a
change her
strong
mechanical
defense.
suit.
Hela
Sagman
looked
was
shocked.
shocked.
This
Hesitated
mechanical
for a moment
fortress was
and
one of
said
Han
softly
Zhao's
in the
apostle
communication
weapons,
channel
called Skywall.
Black Star, if I die
This light
today,
screen was
please
similar
take care
to
of my
Psionic
sister in
Prime
the future,
spear and was
you won't
also
die
a
today.
companion weapon.
Han
of an
Zhao
apostle
shook his
weapon.
head.
It was
There's
called
no need to
Wall of
comfort me.
Defense. And
There are
focused
more
on
than
defense.
10 beyond grade.
However, this
Skywall
situation
had more
is
than
even
one
more
companion
terrifying than what
It
you
also
faced
had
back
another
then.
offensive weapon.
Even if you come
Ion
personally,
Green Flame.
you won't be able to
A
save
large
me.
number of cannons
Don't come with your main body.
extended from this
Go,
fortress,
don't save me.
spitting
You'll
out
be in danger
beams
too.
of green light.
You won't know
towards
until you
Sagman
try.
And the
Han
others.
Zhao did not comment.
This was his
Hela
unique
shook her head,
ion green
paused,
flame,
and said
a
in a
special
low
type
voice,
of plasma
I
energy.
owe you too
Not
much.
only did it have
You've been
destructive
taking
power,
care of me,
but it
for
also
decades.
had many special
Actually,
effects.
I'm really thankful to
SH
you.
Asterisk T.
Han Zhao
I've
looked
been
sideways.
isolated.
Why are you
this,
suddenly saying
Tolian
your last
panicked.
words?
Just as he wanted
This
to
is
get
not like
rid of
you.
the entanglement and regroup
Don't worry,
with his teammates.
I won't wait for death.
He suddenly felt
Even
a
if I
piercing
die,
sense of danger.
I'll cause the
All of a
greatest
sudden,
damage to the
a
enemy.
small black
I've been
beam of
chasing
light
after your back,
shot out from the
and
gaps
before
of
I
the
die,
surrounding mechanical
I'm
army
finally qualified
and
to stand
easily
beside
penetrated
you
his
and
magic
fight
shield.
side by side.
Tolian hurriedly
I'm already very
dodged,
satisfied.
but this beam of
Hela
light
subconsciously
still hit his
reached
shoulder.
out her hand.
Boom! But she
The
suddenly
next moment,
stopped
a
halfway.
huge wound suddenly
After
appeared
hesitating
on
for a
Tolian's
moment,
shoulder.
she changed
He
her
had
action to
received
patting
true
Han
damage.
Zhao's.
He covered
Lord's
his wound
avatar's shoulder,
and dodged,
and sighed
panicking
softly.
as he looked
The
in
next
the direction
second,
the
her
beam of
face
light
became
came
as
from.
cold as
He
ice
saw a
again,
dark humanoid
and energy
apostle
burst
weapon
out.
aiming a special gun.
Alone,
When
she
Tolian
charged
looked
toward
over,
the dozen beyond
this apostle
grade,
weapon
as in front of her.
suddenly turned
She only felt that it
invisible
was a
and
pity that the
disappeared.
one beside
Dark
her
Shadow
was not
a
Han
sniper
Zhao's
assassin
main
type
body.
apostle.
However,
weapon.
before I
its
die,
companion weapon
I should
was
be able to see
divine
you one last
concealment
time,
paint,
courting
which had
death.
extremely powerful
Sagman
stealth,
snorted coldly,
stealth, and led his
camouflage,
companions to
and
fight
environmental
Hela again.
concealment functions.
In midair, the gun
Just
in
as
his hand
Sierran
was
was
about
also
to join the
a
battle
highly
with his
concentrated
companions.
sniper gun.
He suddenly,
sensed
extremely
danger.
lethal against
Boom,
single targets.
boom.
An
Damn it.
extremely
What kind of weapon is
powerful
this?
psychic
My
energy
recovery ability
swept
is
past,
suppressed,
and the people
before
of
Tolian
Radiance
were
could catch his
shocked.
breath.
They
The
hurriedly
mysterious
used various
energy
means
host
to defend
arrived
themselves,
and blasted
but they
a
were
thick
still
beam
sent
of light
flying.
from afar.
The psychic energy
Tolian could also
only
contain
barely
the powerful
activate his
psychic
magic
attack.
shield to
Many
block
people
it.
trembled.
However,
and their heads
the primal
felt like they were
chaos,
about to
mysterious
explode.
energy
This
also
change
had the
shocked
mental
everyone.
attribute.
Although
Sagman
Tolian
and the other
blocked
four
the
quickly
attack,
stopped
his soul
and
was
looked up in
also
shock.
impacted. The attacker was their
Interrupting
leader,
his casting.
Kasui's
Taking
avatar.
advantage of this opportunity,
Didn't they already become
Hela
temporary
did not hold
allies?
back.
Why
Death
did his
energy
excellency
rain down on
Kasui
Tolian's
attack
body like a
the
storm,
people of Radiance,
causing him to be covered
Hela's
in
movements
wounds
also
also paused. Why are you all extremely confused? Tolian wanted to cry. Strange, looking around. Why did the enemy suddenly have an internal conflict? He was the one in the worst situation. Sierran shook his head and got rid of the slight
Aren't you bullying me?
While
He glared at
Tolian was in a
Kasui's
perilous
avatar
situation,
not far away.
Sagman and
What do
the
you
others
mean?
were also
With his hands
anxious
behind
as
his
they
back,
discussed
Kasui
countermeasures.
slowly said,
Black
"The
Star
goal
has
of
too many
Radiance
mech
is
legion,
not just to
and
kill
they're too
Hela.
strong, right?
We can't let them
You want
hold
to
us
capture
here.
her alive.
We have to attack
and
Black
use
Star
her
himself.
as a bargaining chip
Taylor,
to
use the
force
forbidden
Black
spell
Star
scroll
to do
on him.
something for you. Sieren's eyes
He has an
changed.
indestructible
Kasui
body.
was so
Can we
sure
hurt
that
him?
he must have received
We have to do it,
intelligence.
even if we can't now.
There's no point in
better
pretending
way.
anymore.
Let's focus
So he did
fire
not
together
bother
to
with
hide
the forbidden
anymore.
spell
He
scroll.
coldly said,
Sagman,
"Where did you
said
get your
angrily.
intelligence from?"
Hearing this,
Based on your usual
Taylor
style,
tore open
I can
an
guess,
offensive forbidden
Kasui
spell
said
scroll
calmly.
without
You only
hesitation.
interfered in the middle of
Whoosh.
the battle.
Streaks
and
of
even
black
brought
spell
the
meteors
multidimensional
shot out
sky,
from scroll,
opening
piercing
transportation
through all the
device.
psionic shields
Compared to
along
killing,
the way,
it's more
and
like
heading
kidnapping
straight for Han
The
Zhao's
10,000 deity
This
scepter
spell had an
is still in your
extremely
hands.
strong penetrative
If I'm not
ability,
wrong,
and
you
its
want to use
attack
Hela
power
as a
was
trade in
extremely
exchange
high.
for Black Star.
It was
to remove
originally
the
one of the
seal
trump
on the
cards that Han
10,000
Zhao
deity
had
scepter
planned
for
to
you.
use
At this point,
Kasui's
Kasui's psychic
Sagman
power
and the
suddenly
others did not
surged
stay idle.
as if he was angry.
Together with the forbidden
If it were
spell
anything
scroll,
else,
it
they
would be
focused
fine,
fire
but
on
the
Han
10,000 deity
Light
scepter
energy
is
shockwaves,
Ethereal's
pugilist
most
shockwaves,
precious
high risk
treasure.
spells,
The
psionic
priority
cannons,
is Hela's
and so on are
life
all
and
thrown
death.
in the direction
Radiance
of Han Zhao,
still refuses
forming
to
a
give
wave
up.
of powerful
Even if I give up the
attacks.
mission today,
The intense
I'll stop
energy
you from kidnapping
shockwaves
Hela.
attracted the
No
attention
matter
of
what,
the Radiance
the
members who were
10,000
fighting
deity
not far
scepter
away.
cannot
They all
be
turned to
used
look
by
at the
Radiance.
situation and were
Feeling
secretly shocked.
Kasui's
If they
aura
were facing this kind
soaring
of
into the
attack,
sky,
most of the
Han
beyond
Zhao
grade
immediately
as
looked
present
over.
would have to avoid
Damn,
him.
best
The violent
actor,
energy
you're even making
surged
up for
toward
it.
him. This
But
way,
Han Zhao
even if his
did not
actions were
panic.
reported to the
He did not
upper
even move from
echelons
his
of
spot.
Ethereal, with a wave of his
Ethereal
hand,
would only praise
spherical
Kasui
mechanical
for doing a good
discs
job.
quickly.
He suddenly
gathered.
thought,
Every
wait, this
disc
might not be an
had a
act.
piece of
It
space-time
might be the
amber on it.
truth.
And they
Amazing.
immediately formed
The highest
a
level of
double-layered
acting
shield wall
is to
in
even
front of Han
believe
Zhao.
yourself.
Swoosh. All the
If they don't
long-range
award you an
energy
Oscar,
attacks
it's
were like
because they don't
water
know what's good
meeting
for
a
them.
reef.
P.S.
They slid away from a
There was a
space-time
clerical error in the
ambersphere
previous
and
chapter.
could not hurt
Radiance
Han Zhao
sent
at
6
all.
people.
Seeing
not
this,
7.
everyone's
One of
heart
them was
sank.
long range.
They were extremely
Also,
jealous.
I'll recommend the book, The
existence
Mythical
of a space-time
Three
amber
Kingdoms.
was no longer
It's a very
secret.
famous old book.
The arrival of
When I read it in the
Han
past,
Zhao's main
it only
body
had
meant that
3
this
to
universal
4
treasure
million
had
words.
arrived.
Now,
Since it could even
it's over
block
10
the
million
attacks
words.
of the 10,000
Poison
deity
grass
scepter,
even
the
healed
threat
me
of
to show
long-range
respect.
attacks to Han Zhao's main body had been reduced to the lowest.
Chapter 1055.
Even without the space-time
The last
amber,
time I applied
his
for leave was on
tankiness
July
was more
20th.
than enough to take
Current
the
progress.
attacks head-on.
It was too difficult to
PS.
hurt Black
From the
Star's
beginning of the
main
year
body.
until now,
We can use
I have only
psychic
rested
attacks
for 5
against his
days.
main body.
On average,
Hades hurriedly
I only have
said,
1 day off
Crystal
every 2
Soul
months.
and
I
Hades
feel
were
that there's
both
hope for the
psychics.
annual mission
They
to be
both
completed.
gathered their
Their strongest
SJSJ.
psychic energy
PS2
and attacked Han.
Chidian's
Zhao's official
mind from a
website
distance.
said that this chapter
Seeing this,
should be
Kasui
restored
thought
tomorrow.
about it.
It
And
seems
also
that the previous
pretended to
chapters
attack
will
Han
also be
Zhao
restored
with a psychic
The last
attack.
day of the National Day
Psychics were
of
experts
godly
in
mechanic
psychic attacks.
1 day off.
They could attack the
May
target's
7th.
soul
Please wait
out
for
of
thin
moment.
air.
After the
Which is
content has been
extremely
updated,
difficult to defend
please refresh
against.
the page.
My
to get the
shortcomings have
latest
been
update.
fixed long ago. Han Zhao's expression did not change.
Chapter 10,
He directly
56.
activated Cisco's
Radiance
character
wanted to
summon
capture
card,
hostages
Psychic,
to force
Wall of
Black
Mine.
Star to
He did not
unseal
move at all.
the 10,000
Instead,
deity scepter.
Crystal Soul
as expected,
and Hades,
as soon as
who
this
were
was
attacking
said,
with all
the
their
expressions
might,
of Sagman
shaken,
and the
their
others
psychic
changed.
energy,
Their gazes
instantly
toward
weakened,
Radiance were
and they
filled
suffered
with
heavy
hostility
mental
and
injuries.
alertness.
They did not doubt Kasui's judgment
Cisco's
at all.
character summon card
not
could
only because he was the
reduce
leader
the
of this
actual
operation,
damage of psychic
but also
attacks.
because his guests
At the
did
same
make some
time,
sense.
it could also
The
reflect
people
some
of the
damage.
Arcane Church were
Crystal
already
Soul
prejudiced
and Hades
against
did
the
not hold
Radiant
back
Federation,
and took
if
their
not
own
for
attacks.
Radiance betraying
Kasui,
them during
on the
the
other
Battle
hand,
of Planet Lighthouse,
was only pretending
Ethereal
and
would
was
not
not
have
unlucky.
lost Ninja
Crystal Soul
and the
was still
10,000
fine.
deity scepter.
He was stronger
Now that Kasui
and he also
said
had a
that
psychic
Radiance
universal
wanted to
treasure
capture
like the Star
hostages.
Power Crown.
Sagman
His injuries
and
were
others
very
were called
light.
Radiance's style
However,
of doing things.
Hades was
and
not
felt
strong
that this was
enough
something
and
Radiance
suffered
would
a
do.
huge loss.
Ethereal and
He can even
Radiance
reflect
had been
psychic
arguing
attacks.
for too long.
Hades'
regarding
face
the
turned pale,
10,000 deity
and he was
scepter.
shocked.
The
Did
reason
this
they could
be
endure
asterisk
was
not
because
having
they knew that
weaknesses?
the 10,000
How'd he know
deity
everything?
scepter was
The
sealed,
man in Crystal
and
Soul did
Radiance
not
could
believe
not
it.
use it
However,
or study it. The more
this
they
was why they
attacked,
could tolerate
the more psychic
the
damage was
10,000
reflected.
deity
Han
scepter
Zhao
being
maintained his
temporarily
calm
occupied
appearance.
by Radiance.
On the other hand,
However,
if
the
the
10,000
10,000
deity
injured by
scepter
their own
was
attacks,
unsealed
with his mental
Ethereal
resistance,
would definitely
the great
not be able
mechanic
to Archon could also
compared to
block a
Hela's
lot of
life.
mental damage.
The
But
10,000
taking
damage
scepter
was not as good
obviously more
as
important.
reflecting it back.
Radiance could not
Facing
be allowed
more than
to
10
succeed.
opponents,
He
of
would
course,
not
this was
let
not
go
something
of any
Kasui had
opportunity
guessed.
to
It was
weaken
also
the
something the
enemy's
Mecha
combat
Empire
power.
had told him.
After fighting for
Although
a while,
Radiance was
the
the
experts
old
of
boss
Radiance
of the Mecha
and
Empire
Ethereal were very
from Madison's
passive.
plan,
They were
he
trapped
naturally
in the
did
sea
not
of mech
wish for a
legion
weapon
and
like
could
the
not move at
10,000
all.
deity scepter
With such a
to be
huge
used by
mechanical
any
army,
civilization.
coupled with
In
Han
his
Zhao's
eyes,
true
the seal
damage
was the
talent.
best outcome.
The effect of this was
In that
not
case,
just to
let's talk
restrain
with our
the
fists.
beyond great.
Sierran's face
If they were not
turned
careful,
cold,
they
and
would
his
die on the
aura
spot
exploded.
after a few rounds
Powerful
of focus fire.
pugilist flames
Therefore,
gushed out.
Everyone was very
and his voice
nervous.
reverberated
If they were
like
facing
thunder.
an
The
ordinary
few of you
mechanic,
go and
the
deal
dozen
with Hela
beyond
first,
grade,
as
I'll
would
deal
have
with
charged
Kasui.
forward long ago.
He's just a doppelganger.
However,
I'll go and
Black
support you
Star,
guys after I
most of
destroy
them did
him."
not even have
As
the
soon as he
desire
finished
to charge
speaking,
forward.
he raised
He
his
was too
fist and
tanky,
shot out
so
so powerful
tanky that they did
external
not have
energy
any
fluctuation
thoughts.
that was
However,
blazing,
this did
brutal,
not include Sierra.
dazzling,
As a
and
peak beyond
resplendent
grade
like
A
the sun.
pugilist,
Just like
he
his
was still able to
nickname,
charge
the
left
Star Crusher,
and right.
his martial art
unparalleled
style was
and
known for
highly
crushing his
enhanced
opponent's
mech
head
legion.
on.
As
Like
a
the tyrant,
pinnacle beyond
he also
grade,
had
a
true
pugilist,
damage immunity
Garuten
talents,
style,
so
was
he had the
violent
ability
and
to ignore the
ferocious.
focus fire
On the other
of the Mech
hand,
Legion.
Sierran's style
However,
was
compared to the
unstoppable.
entire Mech
Compared to
Legion,
Garuten,
the number of
Sierran's
mechanical
style
soldiers
was more
he killed
upright and
was just a
forceful.
drop in the
It
ocean.
wasn't the kind of
The muscles
fearsome
on
ferocity.
Sierran's arms bulged.
Instead,
and he shot
it was
a
like the
pugilist
rotation
wave
of the
Han
stars
Shao.
and the
However,
overturning of the
it was
world
still reflected
within
by the
irreversible
space-time
feeling.
amber, and
Not to be
could
outdone,
not hit Han Shao at all.
Kasui also
Seeing
burst
this,
forth
he
with
could
a
not help
powerful
but
psychic
grit his
power
teeth
to meet
and
the
talk to
attack
Kasui
head-on.
calmly.
Rumble
Let's
win.
work together.
The two collided.
You use your
It was
psychic
as if
power to
heaven and
restrain the
earth were
Mech
falling
Legion
apart.
and help me get
A
close
blinding
to Black
light
Star.
suddenly
You know
lit
how
up,
explosive my
and the
power
world
is.
seemed to have
I don't want to
turned
kill
into
him.
a vast
Let's see if he can
expanse
restrain
of
Black
light.
Star.
"I'm out of energy," Kasui said. Hearing this, Sierran almost could not breathe. "When you were fighting me just now, you were full of energy and seemed to have an endless amount of energy. Now, you're saying that you're out of energy? Who the F Astra CK are you lying to?" Furious, Sierran threw Kasui aside, knocked away the mechanical soldiers along the way, and charged toward Han Shao. His four arms were wrapped in highly condensed pugilist flames like they were coated with a layer of black paint. "Humph! I knew you were going to attack." Han Shao raised his brows. He was already prepared. He immediately activated his ability, and a portion of the mechanical soldiers flew toward him and quickly assembled. The next moment, the mechanical deity that traversed the universe appeared again. As soon as it appeared, the mechanical deity twisted its hips, swung its arms, and punched toward Sierran. Its fist was covered in a white ball of light that fused with psionic energy and force field. The four black fists collided with a mechanical iron fist that were tens of millions of times larger. Boom! A super large circular shockwave exploded and spread out in the universe. The arm of the mechanical deity that was hit by the shockwave quickly disintegrated, and a large number of mechanical parts exploded. Due to Sierran's size disadvantage, he was sent flying who knew how far away by this punch, even faster than he had flown over. In terms of strength, the two of them were evenly matched. This punch of mine can probably even take out a planet's core. Sierran can take it head-on, as expected of a peak beyond grade A pugilist. Han Xiaoxin thought. At this moment, mechanical catastrophe Francisco saw the appearance of the mechanical deity. His eyes flashed, and he immediately contacted mechanical Queen Morniza of Radiance. "He's using the mechanical deity. This is our chance. You, me, and Romo, who's providing remote support, will work together and use virtual intrusion on the mechanical deity. Even if Han Shao is a virtual mechanic, he'll have to be careful when dealing with our intrusion." "Okay." Morniza nodded solemnly. At this juncture, the Beyond Grade as of Radiance and Ethereal had no choice but to temporarily work together and fight against Black Star, who was burning his potential. The three mechanics quickly worked together in the virtual world. Green streams of data gushed out and attacked Han Zhao's virtual firewall. Han Shao immediately noticed the enemy's actions and smiled. "Oh, you want to invade me?" With the advantage of the virtual specialization and double mechanical sense, Han Zhao's virtual technology bonuses were extremely high. Among the three enemies, only Defender Romo was a virtual mechanic. The other two were from other specializations, and Romo did not send his Lord's avatar here. The defense of the main artificial intelligence was still fine, but the power of the virtual intrusion was much weaker. In the virtual world, Han Shao and the three of them immediately started fighting without smoke. The three of them kept trying to invade, but Han Zhao's defense was impenetrable and tightly guarded the back door. On the other hand, the three of them were virtual intruded by Han Shao through the connection. Radiance had two people, and with the computing power of the main artificial intelligence, they were barely able to block Han Zhao's data probes. However, Mechanical Catastrophe Francisco was only one person, and he did not specialize in virtual technology. His defense was weak, and he was targeted by Han Shao. Even his back door was damaged.
His mechanical army betrayed him one after another, becoming Han Zhao's reinforcements and attacking his teammates. I can't take it anymore. Francisco could not take it anymore. Even the movement of his lord's avatar became sluggish. At this moment, a giant mechanical hand reached over and grabbed Francisco's lord's avatar, who could not dodge in time, and squeezed. Gotcha! Francisco's lord's avatar instantly turned into a pile of scrap metal, and the power that descended was automatically retracted. Han Xiao curled his lips and casually threw away the remains of Francisco's lord's avatar. That brittle skin. These mechanics who used Lord's Descent could not be caught and could be deactivated at any time. If he wanted to make them leave, all he had to do was destroy their Lord's avatar. After all, not every mechanic's Lord's avatar was as tanky as his. Seeing this, Morniza dejectedly gave up on the idea of invading. She could only focus on strengthening her defense and try her best to prevent Han Xiao from breaking through. At this moment, the situation of the battle suddenly changed. Under the siege of so many apostle weapons and Hela, Tolian could not hold on at all. The damage output of the surrounding mech legion took up most of the damage. Tolian did not have the ability to be immune to true damage, so his health dropped rapidly under the focus fire of the mech legion. His other teammates were all pinned down and could not provide support. Boom! Boom! Ah! Tolian was once again drowned in the cannon fire. He was already at his limit, and this time he had finally reached his limit. There was not a single piece of flesh on his body that was unharmed. His demon horn was broken, and his mind was in a chaotic state from the torture of Hela and the mysterious energy host. He was heavily injured and lost his ability to fight. Hela was about to kill him, but Han Xiao had the mechanical deity reach out and separate her. Don't kill him. Why, they cause you to. Hela gritted her teeth, not having the heart to continue. Capturing him is more valuable. Han Xiao shook his head, grabbed the almost unconscious Tolian, and sucked him into the mechanical deity, transporting him to his main body. Han Xiao took out the space-time amber and directly sealed the defenseless Tolian. Looking at this guy's frozen, painful expression, Han Xiao showed a satisfied smile, like an old farmer checking his harvest for the year. The first one. Tolian has been captured. Sagman was shocked and angry. Looking at the mechanical deity that had captured his teammate, he could not help but feel panic in his heart. He did not need to think to know that Tolian was definitely going to have a taste of the space-time amber. He could not help but feel sad for him. Due to the special tankiness of Black Star's main body, they could not use the same methods to deal with Black Star as they did to normal mechanics. There was only one path in front of them, which was to destroy Black Star's mech legion. However, Black Star was fighting on his home turf, and he had even burned his potential. Coupled with the unique combat style of a mechanic, the strength he could unleash was extremely terrifying. It could be divided into three main areas: the mechanical deity itself, the elite troops such as the apostle weapons, and the huge mech legion. The mechanical deity and Sierran were evenly matched, pinning down a single pinnacle beyond grade A, while the mechanical army was pinning down many beyond grade As. The apostle weapons and the other elites were able to split up and destroy the mechanical deity and Sierran. If they continued to fight with Black Star, he did not know how many people they would lose here. In the past, Black Star only had strong recovery abilities. Now that his combat strength had increased, Sagman's impression of him was that of a crushing existence that made people despair. Your Excellency Kasuyi, what should we do now? Sagman could not help but look at his captain. At this moment, the one he trusted the most was still his boss. However, he did not know that Kasuyi had already given them enough leeway to form an ocean. Black Star burned his potential in exchange for this kind of strength. He won't be able to last long. The operation has failed, so there's no point in continuing to fight. Let's retreat, Kasuyi said slowly. What about Tolian? Are we going to ignore him? You might not even be able to leave, yet you still have the time to care about others. Kasuyi shook his head. Although he was the leader, he did not mind Black Star capturing a few people to vent his anger. The way he saw it, Black Star had burned his potential, so it was only right for the universal civilization to give him some compensation. After all, he was not the one paying for it. This group of beyond grade as had already offended Blackstar by coming to kill Hela. If he did not let him vent this anger, it would not be in line with his and the Mecha Empire's thoughts. I'm so dizzy that I can't write this 7,000-word piece of paper. Asterisk winky face. Chapter 1059. Just as the arcane church was about to retreat, Serene, who was fighting with the mechanical deity, also received suggestions from others. Your Excellency Serene, let's retreat. The situation will only get worse for us. There's no point in fighting with Blackstar, who's burning his potential here, Hades said urgently in the group chat. That's right. Although more than 10 people were forced to retreat by Blackstar alone, this is the best plan for now. Since he paid such a huge price, it's best if we don't fight with him anymore, Morniz agreed. Serene clashed with the mechanical deity for a while before retreating. His expression was not too good. Although he was unwilling to admit it, Blackstar's strength was on par with his, and they could not do anything to each other. The consumption of the mechanical deity was terrifying, just like Ultraman's 3 minutes. Normal mechanics would not be able to maintain it for long, but Blackstar's recovery ability was amazing, and he could maintain it for a long time. This meant that even if the two of them were able to determine a winner, it would take a very long time. Now that Ethereal seemed to have the intention of retreating, if they continued to fight with Blackstar, all the pressure would be transferred to Radiance. Serene himself was not afraid, but he could not fight on multiple fronts like mechanics, so he was at a disadvantage in terms of class. Radiance did not plan to fight Blackstar head-on from the start. Since the plan to capture Hela alive had failed, it would be pointless to continue fighting. Serene made a prompt decision and said with a deep voice, "Retreat. Retreat and let the multidimensional sky opening transportation device warm up." Then, Serene stopped fighting with the mechanical deity and turned around to open a path. His pugilist wave shot out again and again, creating an empty space among the thousands of soldiers. On the other side, while leading his teammates to escape, Kasui stopped acting. Psychic energy surged, and all the mechanical troops blocking the way were swept to the side. The escape routes of the two groups were different. Radiance brought the fleet, and the multidimensional sky opening transportation device was their escape route. Ethereal, on the other hand, had very few troops. Only beyond grade, A-supers were required to escape alone. As long as they left the area of the space stabilizing device, they could escape using teleportation scrolls. Han Shao immediately noticed the change in the target of the battle. Both sides were wading through the black tide of the Mech Legion, trying to break through in two different directions. Radiance and Ethereal could not wait for the other party to hold back Blackstar, so naturally, they would not continue to help the other party. Ethereal, on the other hand, would not run over to Radiance's side, or else it would be like jumping out of a tiger's den into a wolf's lair. Our alliance has been broken. Han Zhao's eyes flashed, and he controlled the mechanical deity to chase after Radiance's troops. The Mech Legion was divided into two groups under his command, while the Apostle Weapons and Mysterious Energy host abandoned the beyond grade, Ethereal, and focused on the Radiance. It was more effective to gather forces to deal with one group. The reason he targeted Radiance was because he owed Kasui a favor, and the other reason was that it was too difficult to chase after Ethereal. Once Kasui stopped acting, his ability to contain Ethereal's troops would be unparalleled. If he chased after Ethereal's troops at this time, it would be basically impossible for him to stop any of them. Kasui was just a doppelganger, so he could completely sacrifice himself to bring up the rear. His psychokinesis was enough to stop all of his troops for a period of time. In comparison, Serene was just a pugilist with limited AoE abilities. He was not good at protecting his teammates, and he was still in his main body. He could not miss out on Radiance's train. With all these factors added together, Radiance was naturally easier to deal with. Once he decided on his target, Han Shao did not hesitate to lock onto a beyond grade A Radiance and threw out a skill. Virtual Paramount.
Lone Ranger Jackernitz was using all kinds of mechanical weapons to fight with the apostle weapons. Suddenly, his body froze. His soul was trapped in the virtual world by Han Xiao, and he lost control of his body. In such a dangerous situation, even the slightest bit of carelessness could be fatal, let alone being controlled for more than 10 seconds. As a mechanical pugilist, his physical defense was not as strong as a pugilist, and he did not have true damage immunity talents. The surrounding mech army and apostle weapons swarmed toward him, causing Jackernit's health to drop like a falling cliff. Han Xiao chose him because he was fragile enough. The meeting of the gods allowed him to obtain information on most beyond grade A abilities. Swoosh! Without saying anything, the mechanical deity stretched its arm across the sky, grabbed Jackernitz, and sucked him into its body. When Jackernitz got rid of the control of Virtual Paramount, his consciousness returned to his body. He immediately felt a strong sense of weakness, leaving him with a heavily injured body that was controlled by the traps that were everywhere in the mechanical deity. How is this possible? Jackernitz could not help but be shocked. He could not believe that he had lost so quickly. Even when facing the troops of the Mecha Empire, he could last longer. In the past, he only knew that Black Star was tanky. How was his damage so high? Han Xiao was not surprised. His mech army's damage output was not low at all. Legendary battle technique was indeed a molding talent. As long as his mechanical army broke through the shield of a beyond grade A super without true damage resistance and focus fire on the main body, even a beyond grade A super would not be able to withstand such terrifying HP loss. At this time, Jackernitz was transported to Han Xiao's main body by the nanoparticles in the mechanical deity. Han Xiao turned around and looked at him. Once you're in my body, you can't run. If you don't want to suffer, don't resist. As soon as he said that, countless cannons extended from the inner walls of the mechanical deity and aimed at Jackernitz. Under the helmet of the mechanical suit, Jackernitz could not help but smile bitterly. Fine, I can't beat Black Star in the first place, and now he's even risking his life. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. At the same time, the people of Radiance outside were shocked and furious. They had clearly seen the entire process. Black Star had easily captured Jackernitz like a chicken. Your Excellency Sierra, this. Wumra could not help but say. Don't worry about him. He can't be saved. Sierra's expression was gloomy. Unlike Kasi, he had come with his main body and did not have the capital to act recklessly. If he stayed behind and tried to save his teammates, he would not be able to make it in time for Radiance's teleportation. When the dynasty's reinforcements arrived, he would probably die here. No matter how angry he was, Sierran could only hold it in. At the same time, the Arcane Church members who had broken through from another direction also saw the Federation of Light's casualties and could not help but feel refreshed. Sagman and the others were originally a little depressed that Tolian had been captured. Now that Radiance was also unlucky, they immediately felt better. Just as a certain famous person with the surname Lu said, when one was unlucky, the best consolation was not that others pitied them, but that others were as unlucky as them. That was what Ethereal was thinking now. This time, Kasui's eyes flashed. After thinking for a while, he suddenly stopped and said, "You guys go first. I'll stay behind to do something." "What are you going to do?" Sagman was curious. Kasui turned to look in the direction of Radiance and smiled. Radiance still hasn't given up on the 10,000 deity scepter. It's a good chance to teach them a lesson and get back some interest. Everyone immediately understood. Only Kasui's avatar would be able to do something like this. What Kasui was thinking was to restrain the people of Radiance and help Black Star capture more beyond grade as from Radiance. He hoped that Black Star would capture some captives to vent his anger in exchange for compensation from a universal civilization. Of course, it would be best if he did not sell out his teammates. Radiance was the best replacement. Furthermore, this reason was very reasonable. If he became an actor, Ethereal would even praise him for doing a good job. Eliminating the loss caused by the failure of the mission and the capture of his teammates was like killing two birds with one stone. With that in mind, Kasui left Sagman and the others and charged toward Radiance's people without hesitation. At the same time, he opened a private chat window with Han Xiao. Do you still remember the deal I mentioned to you earlier? Work together? Han Xiao was chasing after the Federation's people. When he saw Kasui rushing toward this battlefield, he originally planned to stop him. But when he heard this, even he could not help but be speechless. Thousands of words of disdain appeared in his stomach, but they all merged into one sentence. I'm really thanking you on behalf of Radiance. With his participation in the battle, the situation immediately changed. The members of Federation were swept by Kasui's psychic energy and suffered a strong mental impact. Their bodies trembled violently, and a large number of openings appeared. The Mech Legion took advantage of this and made their opponents fall into an even tighter encirclement. Their breakout speed suddenly slowed down. Seeing this, Sierran was furious. Kasui, when I invited you to work together to deal with Black Star, didn't you say you were out of MP? King played me. He did not expect the Arcane Church to be so shameless and come over to help Black Star deal with them. Don't look at me like that. Kasui's tone was indifferent. During the battle on Planet Lighthouse, you also stabbed us in the back. The situation then is very similar to now. I'm just doing the same thing as you. During the battle on Planet Lighthouse, because of Radiance, Ethereal was forced into a passive position. Radiance even killed a Beyond Grade A and stole the 10,000 Deity Scepter. As the saying goes, don't look at the fun today, be careful of the list in the future, so Kasui had no psychological burden. At this time, it was impolite not to reciprocate. Sierran's face was green. He roared and charged back. Highly condensed pugilist flames appeared around his body and opened up an empty area. The peak Beyond Grade A pugilist single blade dash ability was fully unleashed, sweeping everything in its path like a hot knife through butter. No mechanical army could stop him. He knocked away countless mechanical soldiers along the way and charged toward Crystal Soul. He grabbed it and left, not caring about the rest of his teammates. Sierra knew that once Kasui interfered, Radiance would definitely have to leave many people behind. He could only try his best to limit his losses. Crystal Soul was small and a crystal life form. Furthermore, it had a universal treasure, so it had the highest priority. Sierran took Crystal Soul, who was the closest to him, and fled. As for the rest, he could not do anything. Morniza saw this and stopped running. She ordered her mechanical army to cover their retreat. Although they were forced to retreat, they still managed to slow down the pursuit of Han Zhao's Mech Legion. As a result, the ones under the most pressure were Hades and Wumra, who were lagging behind. Damn it! Blood spurted out of Hades's orifices. He was also a psychic, but he could not fight back at all in front of Kasui. He was dizzy and weak, unable to keep calm. His face was filled with unwillingness. At this time, the palm of the mechanical deity suddenly came down. Hades looked up in a daze, and his vision was completely covered by this steel dome. Hades had not been a Beyond Grade A for long, so he was not very clear about the division of Beyond Grade A. Seeing this, he only had one thought left in his mind. This was the true power of the universe. The next moment, the mechanical palm came down. His vision turned black, and he lost consciousness instantly. The third one, Han Xiao, sucked Hades, who had lost consciousness, into the mechanical deity and turned to look at Energy Soul Wumra. At this time, all the apostle weapons were attacking Wumra alone. This pugilist style was different from Sierran's and Garutan's. His every move was filled with the aura of a grandmaster. It did not look fierce, but rather smooth and natural, as if it contained some kind of natural law. Compared to close combat, he seemed to be more proficient in mid-range pugilist wave attacks. His pugilist aura was endless, as if it would never run out. The light blue aura was like a spinning shield, constantly deflecting the attacks of the apostle weapons. His fists were neither fast nor slow, shooting out an energy wave with every punch. Even though Wumra was in a passive position, he did not seem to be in a bad state. However, there was no way for him to turn the tables. He could only be considered to be at death's door. Defeat was only a matter of time. Seeing that Serene and Crystal Soul were running further and further away, and that he was surrounded with no way out, Wumra decided not to run anymore and stay behind with Morniza. The mechanical deity waved its arms and tore apart a large number of enemy mechanical troops, as well as the unmanned fleet sent by Radiance, quickly destroying Morniza's fragile lord's avatar. Wumra was in a one-on-one situation. Not long after, he was also captured alive by the Apostle Weapons, the mysterious energy host, and Hela. However, it was not for nothing that they stayed behind. Serene and Crystal Soul had already escaped into the Radiant Federation's fleet. The multi-dimensional sky opening transportation device had already been warmed up. The two large mechanical rings that were perpendicular to each other spun rapidly, faster and faster, turning into a blur. The tracks of the two rings formed a sphere surrounding the area where the fleet was. Serene finally turned around and glared at Kasui before turning back to Han Xiao. He was so angry that his teeth were itching. Black Star, just you wait. Radiance won't let you off so easily after capturing our people. The speed of the two rings suddenly stopped. The fleet within the sphere had already disappeared, breaking through the restrictions of the space stabilizing device and being teleported away. Only the unmanned fleet and the mechanical army were left. The next moment, the multi-dimensional sky opening transportation device self-destructed and exploded. With the people of Radiance gone, the scene became much quieter. Only two of Radiance escaped. Han Xiao stopped. His eyes flickered as he looked in another direction. The few beyond grade, as from ethereal, had already escaped far away. At this time, Kasui's voice sounded in his mind. What's wrong? You captured 3 beyond grade, as from Radiance, and 1 from ethereal. Are you still not satisfied? Hearing this, Han Xiao looked at Kasui, only to see the latter's calm face. Thank you. Han Xiao calmed himself down, deactivated the mechanical deity, and nodded at Kasui. Without Kasui's help, he would have been able to capture 3 people at most. Now that he had captured 4 beyond grade, as in destroyed 2 mechanic avatars, it was equivalent to killing half of the enemies. The main reason was that he had used the character summon card to increase his strength. Other than that, Hela's help and the Spacetime Amber were also important factors. This was especially so for the Spacetime Amber. The shield wall formed by the Spacetime Amber blocked a lot of long-range attacks, so he did not have to worry about defending or taking hits. This meant that he had freed up a lot of energy to attack. At the same time, he had also relied on the Spacetime Amber to seal the Beyond Grade as. Its tactical role was extremely important, and at least 20 to 30% of the credit belonged to it. It had to be said that Ravenlaw's treasure in his previous life was really useful. Although 2 of the 4 Beyond Grade as were newbies, and the other 2 were not very strong, Beyond Grade as were still Beyond Grade as, and they all had molding talents. It all depended on whether Fu Ding could make good use of them this time. Various thoughts flashed through his mind. Seeing that Kasui had been staring at him, Han Xiao simply recalled the mech legion that was chasing the ethereal people. At this time, the space-stabilizing device had already disappeared. He directly opened the secondary dimensional army box and stuffed the intact mechanical army inside. Then, he used the Dimension Factory to collect all the parts and repair them. While doing this, Han Xiao casually asked, "What are you going to do next? Continue to escort the ethereal people away?" When they use the teleportation scroll to reach a safe place, I'll deactivate my avatars. You won't chase after them anymore, right? Kasui smiled faintly and sighed in his heart. How long had it been since the universe had such a strong battle record? When the results of this battle spread out, who knew how big of a commotion it would cause? Since I promised you, I won't go back on my words. By the way, let me show you something. Han Xiao waved his hand and called Hela over in front of Kasui. Are you okay? Hela stared at Han Xiao's face, not even bothering to look at Kasui. Although Kasui had come over to help just now, in her opinion, the ethereal people were still enemies. Naturally, she did not know that this was a movie king. I'm fine. Han Xiao shook his head and said seriously. Ames was attacked in Black Star Palace. Go back and help her. Also, swap Ening over. Hela was stunned. What do you mean? How do I go back and help her? I have a new technology that can teleport you back. Han Zhao's body flashed, and the king left his body and automatically passed through Hela's body. However, it was connected to Han Zhao's mechanical force. After many private tests, Han Zhao knew the operating mechanism of the king like the back of his hand. The king itself was a mechanic-exclusive equipment, and the teleportation function of the throne was targeted at the user inside the mechanical suit. However, if it was through the quantum infinite distance transmission channel and maintained a mechanical force connection with the king, even if there was someone else in the mechanical suit, Han Zhao would still be able to activate this function and teleport the wearer of the mechanical suit to a fixed location. At this time, the throne was about to arrive at Black Star Palace, and he could return to the base as soon as he teleported back. Han Zhao turned around and saw that Kasui was watching this scene with interest, so he deliberately activated the space stabilization device and covered the area again. Then, Han Zhao snapped his fingers, and the king disappeared right in front of Kasui's eyes. Kasui's expression suddenly changed, and he was surprised. This is multidimensional sky opening teleportation? When did you learn Radiance's technology? It's not multidimensional sky opening. This is another technology, but the effect is about the same. It can break through the blockade of space stabilization anchors and disruptors, Han Zhao said calmly. Why didn't you use it earlier? Kasui was helpless. If we knew that you had this technology, who would have attacked Hela? I only developed it not long ago. Han Zhao nodded. Looking at Kasui's expression, he knew that his goal had been achieved. He had deliberately displayed the teleportation ability of the king to let others know that he had a teleportation method that could ignore the space stabilization device. Otherwise, if Radiance and Ethereal refused to give up, they might attack Hela again in the future. Furthermore, he cannot keep Hela hidden forever. The reason he had displayed this trump card now was to let the outside world know that Hela was surrounded and could escape at any time. This would dispel Radiance and Ethereal's thoughts and prevent today's incident from happening again. This way, Hela's situation would be much safer, and no one would have any ideas about her. Swoosh! At this moment, the king appeared again. The mechanical suit opened, revealing a confused Ening. At Black Star? Where is this? Ening had a puzzled look on his face and had yet to recover from his shock. Let's not talk about it first. My time is limited, and I still need to borrow your body. After we're done, I'll give you the evolution cube. Han Zhao patted Ening's shoulder, pulled the confused Ening, and turned to leave. Seeing this, Kasui was surprised. It's over. Where are you going? It's not over for me yet. While my explosive ability is still there, I still have a target to deal with. Who is it? Kasui was curious. Han Zhao turned around and gave Kasui a side profile. Chapter 1060. A few minutes ago, Black Star Palace battlefield. Evil convergence descended here, gradually changing the nature of the surrounding space. Purple and green colors spread out, and the range was still slowly expanding. In the descending area, countless energy tentacles danced wildly. The defense fleet around fired at the tentacles, destroying one after another as if there was no end to it. In some of the theories that supported the conservation of energy in the universe, the law of conservation of energy operated in multiple dimensions. In many galactic civilizations' experiments, there were examples of energy disappearing or appearing out of thin air. Most of the time, energy was transferred between the main universe and other dimensions, so it appeared as if it happened out of thin air. There were many forms of the descending of secondary dimensions. The one traveler used was like using the secondary dimension as a bucket. He made a hole at the bottom and let the water inside spurt out into the main universe, creating an erosion effect. Traveler did not put in much effort, only making a hole. It was like drilling a hole in a dam. The erosion that followed was the power of the secondary dimension itself, which was beyond the scope of an individual's strength. It was on a completely different level. Therefore, The descending momentum was extremely difficult to stop. Therefore, Black Star Palace's fleet could not quickly solve the problem of the descending of the secondary dimension. In the center of the battlefield, Ames was fighting fiercely with Traveler. Her powerful force field collided with the energy of evil convergence, creating strong aftershocks. Her force field Esper ability was good at defense and control, coupled with her flexible void talent. Although Traveler had the upper hand, he was unable to break through Ames' defense line quickly. However, Ames was not happy. The evil convergence area is his home ground. He has an endless supply of energy and can consume my energy without any worries. A prolonged battle is not good for me. Ames analyzed the situation in her mind. She had to admit that Traveler did have some skills. He would be able to join the upper echelons of the three universal civilizations. Although she had improved a little in the past 20 years, she was still not strong enough to fight such a strong enemy alone. Resistance is meaningless. Losing to me is only a matter of time. As the erosion of evil convergence deepened, Traveler's evil aura became stronger and stronger. Ames turned a deaf ear to him and focused on controlling her force field to deal with the purple and green energy tentacles everywhere. On the observation deck outside Black Star Palace, the officers all had solemn expressions. With the defensive measures of Black Star Palace, they were not worried about Traveler causing too much damage. However, Ames' situation was not optimistic. They kept ordering more fleets to join the battle. Yining was expressionless, but his heart was restless. Although the officers of the Black Star Corps did not let him fight, seeing Ames being at a disadvantage, he felt that his chance to perform had arrived. Right at this moment, a few spaceships with the Black Star Army's insignia appeared at the edge of his vision. Seeing this, Haluz said, "Let these transport ships go around the battlefield and come back." These few returning spaceships had already been reported internally. They were marked as transport ships. Everyone's attention was on the battlefield, so they did not pay much attention to them. They only glanced at these few transport ships before looking away. They continued to watch the battle between Ames and Traveler nervously. However, in the next moment, the radar suddenly rang with an alarm. "Alert! Alert! A beyond grade A energy source has been detected." What? Many of the officers present were shocked. They quickly looked at the radar and saw that the energy source was in the transport ships. Could it be an enemy? Everyone's expression changed, and they immediately became nervous. But before they could react, the next scene stunned all the officers present. Wong, the familiar death energy, surged out from the transport ship like a tsunami. Hela's figure stepped on the waves and flew towards the Black Star Palace. Vice Legion Commander Hela. Sister, everyone was stunned, and Aurora was even more dumbfounded. Aren't you supposed to be at the front line? Why are you here? If not for her telepathy, Aurora would have thought that the person in front of her was a fake. However, the person who was the most confused was Traveler. When he turned around and saw this scene, his wild smile froze on his face. What the F *CK, why is Hela here? His mission was to distract Black Star and help the people attacking Hela restrain Black Star. But Hela had appeared here. Did that mean that the people at the front line were attacking thin air? Who am I supposed to restrain? He could not figure it out. In the end, he could only attribute it to Sorokin. Scammer. Unscrupulous seller. False information killed people. Since Hela had appeared here, there was no point in continuing the mission. He did not want to continue fighting with the Black Star Corps. Traveler made a quick decision. He immediately gave up on fighting and ran away. Ames would not let him leave just like that. She immediately switched from defense to offense. Hela glared at Traveler, but did not immediately join the battle. She remembered Han Zhao's order and quickly entered the observation deck. She did not bother with the confused officers and went straight to Yining. Put on this mechanical suit. Black Star wants to see you. Yining was confused. There's no time to explain. Get in. Hela did not say anything and deactivated the king. The king immediately put on Yining's body. The next moment, the confused silver shadow disappeared from the spot without a trace. After doing this, Hela finally had time to breathe a sigh of relief. The officers immediately surrounded her. "Why are you here? Where's His Excellency Black Star?" Hardaway asked. Once he mentioned this, Hella's heart ached. Her face darkened. The impression she gave to the officers was that she was cold and tough. Now that she showed such a sad expression, the officers were all shocked. They could not help but think of the worst possible scenario. Could it be that the Black Star Corps captain was killed? Sister, Aurora noticed Hella's depressed mood. She could not help but pull her hand with a worried expression. "I owe him too much." Hela closed her eyes and clenched her fists as if she was talking to herself. "How am I supposed to pay you back for treating me like this?" At this moment, Han Xiao left the devastated frontline stronghold with Yining. The cleaning of the battlefield was left to the players and other warriors. He did not waste any time and planned to find trouble with Garutin while the effects of the character summon card were still in effect. Hela was attacked, and the information was leaked by Garutin. Although Hela's ability was special, and she would have to go through this sooner or later, it did not mean that Han Xiao wanted to let go of Garutin, who caused this disaster. On the way to Garutin's territory, Han Xiao made his request to Yining. "You want to use my body?" Yining's face was filled with horror. He did not understand the effect of the king, and he did not dare ask. He was originally confused as to why he was brought over by Black Star, but after hearing Han Xiao's words, Yining panicked. "So you're this kind of Black Star? You're actually after my body. Although that's what I meant, I feel like you've misunderstood something." Han Xiao's tone was helpless. "I just want you to do me a favor. Treat it as a transaction in exchange for the right to use the evolution cube. You scared me to death. I thought you wanted to capture me and transform me into a special weapon like the Mecha Empire." Hearing this, Yining heaved a sigh of relief. "Oh, that seems to make sense." Han Xiao coughed and changed the topic. "Your body has a hidden characteristic. When you awaken it, you can turn yourself into a special universal treasure. I need you to transform. Help me with this." "How do you know?" Yining was curious. He did not even know about this. So how did an outsider know more about his body than him? "Do you still remember the first time we met? When we sparred, I controlled your body and conducted a detailed inspection. At that time, I discovered that your body was hiding a secret. It might have mutated when you became a beyond grade A." Han Xiao immediately began to use his talent of lying through his teeth. In fact, he had already poked Yining's interface and seen the skill that had become a universal treasure in Yining's skill list. However, normal characters did not have an interface and could not clearly know all the abilities they had like the players. Yining was in such a situation. He did not know that he had such a skill. Under such circumstances, as long as he guided him and made him realize this hidden skill, he might be able to use it directly. "Okay, what should I do?" Yining reluctantly accepted this explanation. "Try to feel in this direction." Han Xiao did not have a specific method. In the past, Yining did not think in this direction. Now that he realized this point, he might be able to awaken it directly. It was like a person who had been working out for a long time. If he did not challenge himself, he would not know that he could do many difficult movements. Yining was skeptical, but he could only try it out. He maintained the idea of becoming a universal treasure and controlled his body to slowly change. His silver body quickly turned into a pool of liquid metal and kept changing shape, searching for the feeling. After a while, a subtle aura suddenly spread out. Yining took the initiative to climb onto Han Zhao's body. The silver liquid metal wrapped Han Zhao's entire body like a layer of paste, turning him into a silver human body. "So I really have this ability." Yining was shocked by himself. Seeing this, Han Zhao's eyes lit up. He looked at the notification on the interface and smiled with satisfaction. "I was right, wasn't I? You do have special potential." At this moment, the interface showed that Yining had already turned into a universal treasure-level equipment. He wore it and shared his amazing defense and speed. At the same time, he also shared many skills. As long as he rode Yining, he could use them. Furthermore, wearing Yining felt very comfortable. It was like sitting in a luxury car. The seats and interior made Han Xiao feel very comfortable. On the other side, Yining felt this novel feeling and secretly made a decision. He had to get closer to Black Star in the future. This guy could easily detect potential that even he did not realize. His eyesight was too terrifying. If he could get Black Star to help him uncover the mysteries of his body, his growth would definitely be much faster. Having unearthed his hidden potential, Yining was very happy. He did not reject lending his body to Han Xiao and letting him control it. The two of them worked together for a while, and Han Xiao gradually familiarized himself with the operation of this good car. He loved it very much. Let's go, let's go. Then, without another word, he started at 5th gear. Bang! Yin Ying's acceleration ability was activated, and its speed seemed to increase endlessly. Han Xiao turned into a silver meteor and quickly disappeared into the universe. Somewhere in the Emerald Star cluster, a teleportation gate quickly formed in space and spat out 3 figures. Phew, we finally made it out. Sagman's tense nerves finally relaxed. He looked in the direction of the battlefield with a complicated expression, and fear lingered in his heart. Speaking of which, Black Star's strength was too scary. It was as if he would be captured if he ran a little slower. Everyone could not help but feel lucky that Black Star was chasing after Radiance and not Ethereal. He turned around and exchanged glances with Taylor and Mercer. The 3 of them had the same expression in their eyes. That was close. We almost entered the palace a second time. Your Excellency Kasuyi is so wise to help Black Star deal with Radiance. Not only did you restrain Black Star and prevent him from chasing after us, but you also dealt a blow to Radiance's people. Although the mission failed, Your Excellency Kasuyi still made a contribution, Taylor said. Thinking of the tragic situation on Radiance's side, the 3 of them felt great and admired Kasuyi's decision even more. It's just that our Tolian has been captured by Black Star. He's also a problem. Sagman shook his head. That's nothing. He'll just suffer a little. When he's released, we'll have a common topic to talk about. That makes sense. Although they had lost a teammate, the 3 of them did not mind. The atmosphere was cheerful. On Radiance's side, the atmosphere was the complete opposite. It was filled with gloom. The multi-dimensional sky opening transportation device brought Radiance's fleet back to the territory. The high official, who had been waiting at the teleportation point to receive Hela, was stunned when he saw the tragic state of his troops. 6 beyond grade and only 2 of you returned? Hearing the high official's question, Sierran's expression was extremely ugly. If they fought head-on without considering the consequences, he was confident that he would be able to fight on par with Black Star in his explosive state. Unfortunately, pugilists were like a sharp knife. All their strength was concentrated in their bodies. Protecting his teammates was not something he was good at. Thinking of how they had lost so many beyond grade as under his leadership, and how they had been beaten to a pulp by Black Star, Sierran trembled in anger. This is an absolute humiliation. This time, the Mecha Empire is definitely going to laugh at us. The upper echelons will definitely think that my ability to lead is far inferior to the Mecha Empire, so I can only rely on Manison more. Right, there's also that bastard Kasuyi. If not for him, Radiance would not have suffered such a huge loss. Sierran clenched his teeth. Kasuyi, just you wait. The Mecha Empire will definitely find trouble with you. Near a certain Stargate station in the Emerald Star cluster, a fleet was fighting with a mechanical army. The most eye-catching thing on the battlefield was a figure covered in dark brown pugilist flames. It was Beast Ancestor, Garutan. His opponents were more than 10 apostle weapons under the Mecha Empire. They were all of different shapes and sizes, but they were extremely strong. Working together, they were able to fight Garutan back and forth. Ever since Garutan arrived to rescue the fleet, the 2 sides have been fighting for a long time. Mecha Empire, it's useless even if you stop me. Garutan spoke with a deep voice while fighting with the apostle weapons. Black Star's frontline stronghold was attacked. Hela might have already died in battle. Even if you don't let me destroy the Stargate station, the Dynasty's reinforcements won't be able to make it in time. In such a situation, Hela will definitely die. He did not know the exact situation at the scene. His impression was still at the time when Sorokin reported that Hela was in a desperate situation. Destroying the surrounding Stargate stations was just icing on the cake. He still did not think that Hela had any chance of surviving this desperate situation. Manison ignored him. Only the Apostle weapons continued to fight with Garutan. Are you going to let her go or not? Seeing that the Mecha Empire did not respond, Garutan became more and more furious. Manison still did not respond. You really won't give up. Just you wait. The news of Hela's death will arrive very soon. By then, you'll know that everything you're doing now is futile. Garutan was furious. Manison still did not respond. He only silently intercepted all the information sent to Garutan on the virtual level. It was not that no one told Garutan what had happened. It was just that he could not receive any information from the outside world. The virtual mechanics methods were undetectable. Garutan was completely in the dark. He was still immersed in the joy of successfully taking revenge. He only felt that his plan was working. Garutan was so angry at Manison's attitude of ignoring him that he gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to continue speaking, he suddenly had an intuition. He turned his head and looked into the distance with a puzzled expression. A silver meteor suddenly entered their field of vision and approached them at an unbelievable speed. A strange sense of danger suddenly appeared in Garutan's mind. Chapter 1061. What a huge amount of energy. What is this thing? It seems to be coming for me. Garutan was secretly shocked. In his senses, the energy fluctuations of Han Shao and Yining overlapped, exuding a powerful aura that made one tremble. The silver meteor clearly did not come with good intentions. Garutan's expression changed slightly. He did not sit still and watch this strange thing approach him. While dealing with the entanglement of the Mecha Empire's mechanical army, he freed up his hands and shot out dark brown shockwave blast toward the silver meteor. However, this silver meteor was like a vehicle driven by an experienced driver. It made full use of its speed advantage, and its position was very coquettish. It was like a racing car drifting, twisting, and turning as it dodged the similarly swift dark brown beam of light. Seeing that his long-range attacks could not do anything to the silver meteor, and that the other party had locked onto his back, Garutan's expression became serious. He suddenly exploded with energy and blasted the Apostle weapons away. Then he compressed his pugilist flames and increased the strength of his body. He turned around and faced the silver meteor. The two streams of light of different colors rapidly closed the distance between them. The next moment, they suddenly collided. In an instant, the detectors of all the Beast Ancestor spaceships present reacted at the same time. The energy fluctuation displayed broke through the peak. At the location where the two collided, a dazzling light suddenly lit up like a flashing halo. The solid dark brown pugilist flames were like a rock that was heavily smashed by a hammer, instantly exploding. Garutan's figure spun like a top and shot out. The blood that splattered out was directly evaporated by the energy shockwave from the collision. At the moment of the collision, Garutan's thoughts seemed to have stopped for a moment. He only felt his vision blur. When he came back to his senses, he realized that he had lost control of his body and was directly sent flying. Ever since he became a pinnacle beyond Grade A, he had rarely encountered anything that he could not block. However, the terrifying kinetic energy contained in this silver meteor made him feel like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Pugilists were used to bearing the brunt of a head-on collision, but the power of this collision still exceeded Garutan's expectations. He felt as if every nerve in his body was twitching, sending signals of intense pain to his brain. His heart was shaken. What terrifying power! Who are these people? Garutan was bewildered. He only managed to stabilize himself after flying quite a distance away. He quickly checked his body and found that he had suffered serious injuries from the collision. His mood became very solemn. He focused his eyes and saw the original appearance of the silver meteor that had stopped. His face suddenly changed, and he said in shock, "Black Star." After hitting Garutan, Han Shao stopped the car and let Yining roll down the window, revealing his handsome face. He stared calmly at the shocked Garutan. "We meet again, Beast Ancestor. How could it be you? Weren't you staying in Black Star Palace? Garutan was bewildered as various possibilities flashed through his mind. Could it be that something had gone wrong with the operation against Hela? Seeing Han Zhao's strange silver shell, Garutan was very confused. The development of the situation seemed to have deviated from his expectations. He really wanted to know what had happened at the scene. What is Sorokin doing? Why didn't he tell me what had happened until now? I know what you've done behind my back, Han Zhao said slowly. Hela is out of danger. Your plan has failed. Don't have any more fantasies. Hearing this, Garutan frowned. Although he did not know how the matter had been resolved, Black Star did not need to lie in this regard. Seeing how calm the other party was, he knew that the situation was most likely true. Garutan was unhappy that he had not been able to kill Hela. He had a feeling that his hopes had been dashed. Then, you're here to look for me? Han Zhao narrowed his eyes. Back then, you provoked me and suffered a loss. Then, through some channels, you leaked information to Radiance and Ethereal, wanting to kill me with a borrowed knife. Now that the matter has been exposed, you know what's going to happen next. Garutan's face darkened. His secret plan had failed, and he had been exposed by the person in question. Even if he saw Han Zhao as an enemy, he could not help but feel embarrassed. Garutan was not a person who liked to defend himself. What was done was done. Since the enemy had seen through him, there was no need for him to hide. He suppressed his emotions and snorted. What? You want to settle the score with me? I've said it before. If you want to play, I'll play with you to the end. You don't look like someone who can afford to play. So, there's only one way to solve the problem now. I'm sure you know that. Han Zhao's tone was calm. In the end, you're still talking with your fists. Garutan knew that a battle was unavoidable, and flames appeared on his body again. Schemes and tricks are indeed not suitable for me. Fighting head-on is the most straightforward. Although he had suffered a loss earlier, Garutan was not afraid at all. They were both peaked beyond great as. Who didn't have a trump card? Who was afraid of who? He took a deep breath of energy and used his energy to stimulate the proliferation of cells, healing his wounds quickly. The lost HP was quickly replenished. A pugilist's control of the body was close to the extreme. At the peak of beyond grade A, his recovery ability would not be too low. I didn't fight you last time. Today, I can make up for it. Your deeds are widely spread in the universe. Let me see what you're really capable of. Garutan's eyes were bright, and his tone was filled with strong fighting spirit. He still did not know about the process of the rescue battle for Hela, and he knew nothing about Han Zhao's recent achievements. His impression of Han Zhao was still stuck at the standard of his previous strength. At this time, Garutan finally remembered Manison, and his heart skipped a beat. If his opponent was only Black Star, Garutan was not afraid. However, if the Mecha Empire also joined the battle, it would not be good. He could not help but turn around, and his heart was filled with joy. He saw that Manison's troops were no longer entangled and were retreating, showing that they had no intention of interfering in this battle. Han Zhao also looked at the Mechanic Emperor's troops that were gradually getting further away and muttered to himself, Manison sent Garutan's coordinates to me, but did not pick up my call. Is this a show of goodwill? And he wants me to take over this opponent of Garutan for him, so that he can continue to stay out of this? Han Zhao shook his head. He did not care what the director Manison was planning. In any case, he was determined to fight this battle. There was no way he would let go of the initiator of this. The effect of the character summon card was still there, and it could still be maintained for quite some time. With this explosive combat strength, it should not be a problem to deal with Garutan. Swoosh! The secondary dimensional army box opened, and a sea of mech legions swarmed out, sweeping through the galaxy. Garutan was not afraid, and he charged into the endless mech legion alone. As soon as they started fighting, the pressure came crashing down, and Garutan immediately felt that something was wrong. Wait, how is your combat strength? Garutan's eyes suddenly widened, and his face was filled with astonishment. He had once felt Black Star's energy level at close range, so he had a rough estimate of Han Zhao's combat strength. However, at this moment, Han Zhao's actual combat strength was far beyond what he had guessed, giving him a huge shock. This did not make sense. It had only been a month or two. So how did Black Star's combat strength soar to a whole new level? At this time, Han Zhao's main body did not retreat, but advanced instead. He did not activate the mechanical deity and actually took the initiative to engage in close combat. Their fists suddenly collided, and a huge force was transmitted through their arms. There was actually a stalemate, and the shock on Garutin's face became more and more intense. How is your strength also? You asked too many questions. Han Zhao's movements were so fast that it was as though he had turned into a blur, and he suddenly sent the stunned Garutin flying with a kick. Just like how cavalry could increase their combat strength with the help of horsepower, when Han Zhao rode on Yi Ning, he could also receive attribute bonuses from him. Yi Ning was a pugilist himself, so his strength and dexterity bonuses were very high, and he also had a unique defense advantage. Endless power was transmitted from Yi Ning, and Han Zhao's main body temporarily received attribute bonuses that were not inferior to a pugilist's. Together with his own attributes, his melee combat strength was greatly increased. Although it was still not comparable to a peak pugilist, it was still not bad. In his previous life, a pugilist like Carrot was like a tiger that had grown wings when he used Yi Ning. However, Han Zhao used Yi Ning more because of his speed and defense advantages. Melee combat was not his main damage output method. At the same time, the dynasty's support fleet sailed out from another Stargate. We're finally near Black Star's frontline stronghold. Let's hurry over. We don't know how the battle is going. Every second we delay will put Hela's life in danger, Raven Loudy urged. This time, Kant closed his eyes as if he had received some news. He then opened his eyes and said, "There's no need to rush. There's no need to rush over. Black Star has already settled the matter." Hearing this, Raven Loudy, who was rubbing his hands together, was stunned. How is that possible? How did he take care of such a dangerous situation? Here, this is the information from the Black Star Corps. Kant showed the information, which recorded the battle process. After reading the information, Bayone's face was filled with shock. To think that Black Star was still hiding such a trump card. In his explosive state, he can actually fight against more than 10 beyond grade as unbelievable. It's mainly because Radiance and Ethereal had no choice but to run away. They even held each other back, giving Black Star a chance to take them down one by one. However, I have to say this battle record of his is really too scary to an outsider. Kant sighed. However, burning his potential is too much of a loss for someone with a bright future like him. This will definitely affect his growth. Sigh, Black Star has been wrong this time. The dynasty will definitely compensate him. This time, Bayone could not help but think of Kant's joke earlier. His expression became strange. On the way, Kant had said that he could take on everyone alone. It was originally a joke, but he did not expect it to come true on Black Star. Amazing! Bayone was impressed from the bottom of his heart. On the other hand, Raven Loudy froze when he saw this news. He originally wanted to turn the tide and make Black Star owe him a favor, but he did not expect that Black Star would be able to take care of such a huge crisis alone without the help of reinforcements. Doesn't this mean that I made this trip for nothing again? I didn't even get a favor? Raven Loudy instantly lost his motivation. He only wanted to turn into a salted fish and lie in a corner until the end of time. Since the matter is settled, what should we do now? Go to Black Star Stronghold and take a look, or go back directly? Kohler asked. Kant shook his head. Neither. Black Star seems to be fighting with Garutin. Since we're already here, let's go and see if we can help. On the other hand, in Beast Ancestor's Stronghold Palace, Sorokin's manifestation held the communicator in his hand and paced back and forth, muttering to himself, "This is strange. Why hasn't Garutin replied to my message yet? Did something happen?" Sorokin suddenly had a bad feeling about Garutin's situation. Chapter 1062. Boom! The silver fist collided with the dark brown fist, and a shockwave spread out. Garutin was once again sent flying by Han Zhao's infinite charge. Han Zhao did not use the mechanical deity.
Instead, he kept fighting in close combat with his original body. When the cooldown of Endless Charge was over, he would move to the side and farm steps, accumulating the power of his Ironhead ability. Even if Garutin wanted to stop him, he would be stopped by the huge Mech Legion. Without the restriction of the space-stabilizing anchor, Han Zhao's troops kept pouring out of the secondary dimensional army box and the Dimension Factory. At this time, the Mech Legion was mainly responsible for the battle. Under the leadership of the Apostle Weapons and the mysterious energy host, they tried their best to contain and deal damage to the enemy. The peak beyond grade, a pugilist had amazing individual combat strength. Garutin was not surrounded, but he was still having a hard time being surrounded by the Mech Legion. Not to mention, there was also a guy beside him who would hit him from time to time. His current situation was like he was in some sort of unbeatable game, where the difficulty level was high and he was alone in a sea of enemies. The small soldiers had long health bars, and their damage was not low either. The Apostle Weapons were like small generals in the army, and there was even Han Zhao, who was like a sh*T stir in the environment. Therefore, although Garutin's individual combat strength was much higher than the mechanical army, he could not play unbeatable at will and could only be cautious. In the encirclement of cannon fire, wherever Garutin went, dark brown flames would scatter and mechanical soldiers would be blown away. He fought left and right while urging his cells to proliferate and heal the new wounds that were constantly being created. Feeling the burning pain of his torn tendons healing, Garutin was very frustrated. When a pugilist fought a mechanic, charging at the enemy was the best strategy, but he was annoyed whenever he saw Han Zhao's main body near him. Infinite Charge was really making him uncomfortable, and he could not control the rhythm of the battle. Now, whenever he saw Han Zhao moving around, Garutin could not help but roar in his mind. "Don't come over." On the other side, although Han Zhao had a slight advantage, he was not very optimistic. Although pugilists did not have any fancy means, and their combat style was very pure, when they reached the peak of beyond grade, this kind of purity would result in a transformation. It was as if they had been tempered thousands of times, finally making themselves indestructible. My tankiness is second to none among mechanics, mainly because of my strong recovery ability. However, the recovery ability of a peak beyond grade A pugilist is not to be underestimated, and his HP is even higher than mine. Pugilists had a lot of talents that increased their endurance, and their own class also had special bonuses. At the pinnacle beyond grade A level, no class could compare to pugilists in terms of HP. Not even OL Amos was an exception. Moreover, pinnacle pugilists might not necessarily not have a bug-level HP recovery ability similar to his own. They were the real heavy tanks, and the so-called tanky and capable of dealing damage refer to him. Before this, Serene was constantly fighting and running, and he was dragged down by his teammates. This was the first time Han Zhao was fighting a peak pugilist who was going all out. Even if he was currently in an explosive state, it was impossible for him to easily deal with Garutin like he did with a normal beyond grade A pugilist. The two of them fought endlessly, and the scene was intense. Not far away, Beast Ancestor's fleet was hesitating. "Father is fighting. Should we help?" In the bridge of the command ship, the eyes of many crew members were focused on one of the Calamity grade officers. This person was one of Garutin's direct descendants, and he was the commander of this fleet. His name was Byram. "That's a battle between beyond grade S. It's not suitable for us to interfere." Byram hesitated. "Black Star is here for revenge, not a duel. Father is in a tough battle, and it's not suitable for us to watch him get beaten up," another Calamity grade officer said. "But with just us, we won't be of much use in such a battlefield. Just the shockwaves from their battle will cause us to suffer losses." Byram frowned. "At the very least, we are also combat forces. If we can help a little, it will be a little bit. Lord Father may need us." Byram turned to look at him, and, as expected, he saw fanaticism in the other party's eyes. The way Garutin raised his descendants was naturally not something that all of his descendants agreed with, and the faction was not united.
Although everyone's father was Garutin, many of their brothers and sisters had different mothers. Their relationship with each other was different, causing the internal factions to be intricate and complicated, with undercurrents surging. Generally speaking, they could be divided into three types of people. Byram was a neutral person and only followed his duties. Although he called his father, he did not have any sense of belonging to the faction. An officer who urged him to participate in the battle belonged to the loyal faction. Just as Byram was thinking about how to deal with the situation, a huge fleet approached from afar. The outer armor was painted with the beast ancestor symbol. This was the army that had rushed over from the stronghold to support Beast Ancestor after not receiving a response for a long time. They're finally here. Byram's spirits were lifted when he saw this. The two sides quickly converged, and many officers met. Since the reinforcements were already here, there was no point in continuing to watch the show. Byram shook his head and changed his words. With our current strength, we are qualified to participate in this battle. We don't need to kill many mechanical soldiers. As long as we can delay a portion of them, we will be able to reduce the pressure on Father. Let's do it. The fleet spread out and gradually approached the battlefield. Han Shao noticed this, turned around, and frowned. In the exploration era, it was not uncommon for Beyond Grade as to be killed by fleets. Even if Beyond Grade as had great strength, they could not treat large fleets as air. If Beast Ancestor's troops were to participate in the battle, it would indeed cause some trouble. Even if he was a virtual mechanic, he would have to gradually invade the enemy. This way, he would have to divert his attention. At the same time, the Mech Legion would also have to divert a portion of their forces to face the fleet, which would reduce the pressure on Garutin. If it was an ordinary opponent, it would not matter. However, Garutin was an opponent of the same level, so any details would be magnified. Most of the fleets in the Black Star stronghold were cleaning up the battlefield. When Han Shao set off to find Garutin, he had also ordered a portion of the fleets to come over and provide support. However, Ening was too fast and left most of the fleets behind. His own fleet was still halfway there. Suddenly, a magical wave bloomed. Buzz! Just as Beast Ancestor's army was about to intervene, a gigantic teleportation gate suddenly appeared in the middle of the battlefield, spitting out several battleships bearing the Empire's insignia and blocking Beast Ancestor's army. The Dynasty's people are finally here. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. Although the Dynasty did not make it in time to rescue Hela, it was still useful now. It was better to be late than never. At the very least, they could pretend to be police officers to clean up the mess. Very soon, all the Dynasty's reinforcements arrived on the battlefield. Raven Loudy was the last to fly out of the portal. He waved his staff and deactivated this large-scale teleportation spell. Seeing the situation, Kant smiled. It seems like we came at the right time. This accident was a surprise for Han Shao, but it was a shock for Beast Ancestor subordinates. Stop immediately. A few beyond grade, energy sources appeared on the spaceship's radar. Byram was shocked and quickly ordered the fleet to stop, not daring to get any closer. He faced the Dynasty's troops from afar and became hesitant again. Kant and the others ignored Beast Ancestor's fleet and turned to look at the battle. Seeing Han Zhao's strength, they could not help but be amazed. As expected of Black Star in his explosive form, his strength is obviously one level higher than his normal form. Kohler sighed. Unfortunately, the price for this power is a bit high. Kant contacted Han Shao, smiled, and asked, "How is it? Do you need help?" "Just help me hold the line. Don't let him escape," Han Shao replied very quickly. This was a personal grudge, and it was also a rare opportunity to establish his authority. Han Shao planned to deal with Garutin alone. The Dynasty's allies were here, so they could guard the area and prevent others from interfering. They could create an undisturbed one-on-one situation and prevent Garutin from escaping. "Since you don't need us to do anything, we'll respect your wishes." Kant did not have any objections. According to Han Zhao's request, he ordered the troops to spread out and form an encirclement. Seeing himself surrounded by strong enemies, Garutin's face darkened. He knew there was no way out. Regret a little. However, He did not dwell on it. Since he had already done it, he would not turn back and think about it. At this point, there was no point in saying anything. Garutin only silently increased the strength of his attacks, erupting with all his strength without holding back. Let me see what you're capable of, Black Star. At the same time, Byram's fleet did not dare attack the dynasty's troops. They could only watch as the dynasty set up a defense line right under their noses. They could only watch as their boss was beaten up and surrounded by the enemy. Seeing the dynasty's formation, many officers, including Byram, felt a strong sense of uneasiness in their hearts. They also had a bad feeling that their backer was about to collapse. Father has nowhere to run. The dynasty is determined to capture him. We can't watch Father get captured by the dynasty. How can we help? There are several dynasty beyond grade, as on the other side. We'll only be sending ourselves to our deaths if we help. Is there a way to solve this situation? Who can help? Can the protectors of the galactic black market help? With such a big thing happening, they can't even hide. How can they interfere? As a protector of the galactic black market, Garutin had his own backer. At this moment, he was alone. At this juncture, there would naturally not be any beyond grade A allies from the three universal civilizations to help him. At this moment, everyone, including Byram, had a fearful thought. It's over. The world is going to change. Thinking of this possibility, some officers and crew members secretly had other thoughts. Apart from the loyal and neutral factions, the last faction in the Beast Ancestors faction was the rebels. Some of the Beast Ancestors' descendants hated their own identity and secretly hated Garutin, their father. They were descendants in name, but they were actually slaves. These people had always pretended to be obedient and follow the orders of the Beast Ancestor, but they actually wanted to kill him. Now that they saw Garutin being retaliated against by a strong enemy, this group of rebels felt extremely happy, and the ambition in their hearts continued to grow. In a certain remote location in the flickering world, a teleportation gate appeared out of nowhere and spat out Traveler. I'm finally out. Traveler heaved a sigh of relief. He had quite a few injuries on his body, and he looked quite haggard. He had flown a long distance before finally escaping the range of the Black Star Fleet's space-time stabilizing anchor. Along the way, he had been chased by Ames and Hela and suffered a lot of injuries. Fortunately, he had used teleportation to escape from the Black Star's territory. Traveler took out his communicator and contacted the person in charge of the Supercluster Alliance. Things have gone awry. Hela has mysteriously returned to the Black Star Palace. My mission has failed. We've already expected this. Black Star ignited his potential and erupted with shocking strength. Not only did he force the Radiance and Ethereal troops to retreat, he even captured a few beyond grade as his captives. This news hasn't spread to the outside world yet. Currently, only the advanced organizations know the details. Your Excellency Traveler, it's fine as long as you're fine. I see. Traveler shook his head. After deactivating the evil convergence, his evil aura disappeared, and he returned to his normal appearance. I've offended the Black Star Core this time, so I'm going to travel in the secondary dimensions to avoid the limelight. I probably won't appear in the main universe for a long time, so don't ask me to do anything during this time. Understood. Don't worry and go take refuge. Since we didn't provoke another conflict between the three universal civilizations, we won't be involved in this kind of thing for the time being. Just focus on developing. Black Star still doesn't know my identity. At most, he'll be dissatisfied with me, but he won't blame you. As long as I disappear, he'll stop. By the way, Sorokin thinks I was hired, but he might have noticed something. This person is not reliable, so be careful. Understood. Traveler gave some instructions before hanging up. He sighed in his heart. Who knew how long it would take for him to come back after hiding in the secondary dimensions this time? Silently taking one last look at this universe, Traveler cast a spell, stepped into the secondary dimensions, and disappeared without a trace. Time flew by. The two of them fought for a long time, and the situation finally came to an end under the watchful eyes of everyone. A large number of mechanical troops were destroyed, and their quality dropped by several grades. 3 apostle weapons were completely destroyed. 4 apostle weapons were temporarily paralyzed. The mechanical deity disintegrated once, and his Mount Ying's health dropped below the danger level. Han Shao paid a huge price to make Garuten, who was fighting with all his strength, run out of fuel. Although peak pugilists recovered their energy quickly, they did not have nearly unlimited energy like Kasui. As far as the eye could see, the battlefield was filled with mechanical wreckage, and the Dimension Factory was tirelessly recycling parts. In the center of the battlefield, Garuten's face was filled with exhaustion. His wounds were slowly healing, and hot blood was still spurting out. He was no longer recovering as quickly as he had been at the start. "You've lost. Do you have anything to say?" Han Shao faced him, opened the mechanical suit's helmet, and stared at the other party. Although it was because of the buff, this was still the first time he had defeated a peak beyond grade A in a head-on battle. Cough, cough. A loss is a loss. There's nothing to say. Garuten grinned, revealing his blood-stained teeth. "What? Do you think I'll beg for mercy? There's always a price to pay for scheming against others. Since you provoked others, you should have thought of the consequences." "Humph, don't talk nonsense with me. I can afford to play. At least I made you burn your potential, and the upper limit of your growth will forever be lowered." Han Shao shook his head and laughed in his heart. Even if he explained, the other party probably would not believe him. Plus, he would not explain it to outsiders. He paused, changed the topic, and slowly said, "You provoked me back then. If you had endured a little loss, it wouldn't have evolved into today's situation. Compared to the lifespan you lost more things now." "If I had endured it, I wouldn't be me," Garuten said with a deep voice. "If I can't do whatever I want, what's the point of having great strength?" Some people chased after strength itself, while others chased after the added value of strength. Every beyond grade A was the former, and only after the conditions were met did they gradually become the latter. Not only beyond grade A, the entire superclass was like this. "No matter what, I'll gladly accept your body." Han Shao raised his hand and pressed on Garuten's chest. "Humph, take it. If you're so capable, don't ever let me find a chance to turn the tables." Garuten stood proudly without any fear. Hysteria was the style of a small character, and he was already mentally prepared. Even if he had lost, he still maintained his last bit of composure. Regardless of whether he won or lost, he would accept it calmly. The next moment, his stubborn expression froze, and his spurting blood froze. Beast Ancestor Garuten, sealed in the space-time amber. Chapter 1063. Phew, I finally caught this guy. Garuten, who was sealed in the space-time amber and covered in wounds, looked like a specimen. Looking at the stubborn expression on his face, Han Shao finally relaxed his tense nerves. A peak beyond grade A in a life-and-death battle had countless trump cards. If not for the space-time amber, the King mechanical suit, the dual mechanical senses, and the Mount Ying being strong enough, he might not have been able to suppress this peak muscular bully. After all, unlike when he dealt with the ES God, he did not have a trump card like Esper Silence this time. He could only use all his means to fight head-on. Thus, it was inevitable that his mechanical army would be damaged, and a large number of mechanical soldiers had to be sent back to the factory to be rebuilt. Both sides were peak meat shields, so there was no chance of victory being decided in one hit. The entire battle was just a cycle of grinding each other down, over and over again, to see who would wear the other down. If not for the dynasty's allies, it would have definitely turned into a chase. Who knew how long the battle would have lasted, and the other party might even have escaped. However, the current outcome was ideal. With Garuten captured, the dust had settled. My goal this time has been achieved. I've protected Hela, displayed the king's abilities, and even captured Garuten. The outcome of this matter is very beneficial to me. Venting his anger was only one reason he came to fight Garuten head-on. The main reason was to show a firm attitude and establish his dominance. Because his image as a playboy was deeply rooted in people's hearts, coupled with his low profile for more than 20 years, there had been many people testing him recently, thinking that he did not have a temper. This time, he did not borrow too much strength from the dynasty and could basically be considered establishing his dominance alone. Now that he had achieved such a result, if other organizations wanted to provoke him in the future, they would have to reconsider the consequences and consider whether it was worth it to provoke such a strong peak beyond grade A. The only problem was that the results of this incident were too frightening, almost unbelievable. Although the people of Radiance and Ethereal were not fighting to the death, and various factors caused them to be unable to use their full strength, allowing him to take advantage of the loopholes, the outside world would not care about the twists and turns. They would only see the results of a 1v12 battle. In front of this record, the fact that he had fought Garutan and taken down a peak beyond grade A was nothing more than a bonus. Such a shocking feat was enough to rank him among the most shocking beyond grade A battle records in history. However, going too far was just as bad as not going far enough. It was not entirely a good thing for him to have such a battle record when his true combat strength had not reached that level. What made Han Shao feel lucky was that Serene had given him the term burning potential for this outburst of power. Only then would the various advanced organizations, including the 3 universal civilizations, be able to accept such a result. The other beyond grade, as would also believe this explanation. With this statement, coupled with the fact that the beyond grade, as were on the United Front, Manison should not come over to test him after seeing his amazing performance. This would remove a huge problem. At the same time, burning one's potential would not weaken the effect of him establishing his dominance. If there was a reason for this, it would be because of the many character summon cards. Although some of them could only be used once, others did not know that this was a one-time use. Han Shao knew what those advanced organizations were thinking. They would form an illusion that as long as he was willing to pay the price of burning his potential again, he would be able to regain such strength. Even if he explained it, no one would believe him. Therefore, following this train of thought, the various organizations could come to a conclusion, which was, don't force Blackstar into a corner. This way, it was obvious what kind of effect it would have in the end. Han Shaoxin pondered, and a smile appeared on his face. Not only did I achieve the effect of establishing my dominance, but I can also continue to develop steadily. This is a huge gain. At this moment, he only had one thought. Serene is really a good comrade. Suppressing the joy in his heart, Han Shao told Philip to lead the troops to clean up the battlefield and put away Garutan's amber specimen. Seeing that the battle was over, the dynasty's allies surrounded him. You've done an incredible thing this time. If word gets out, it will definitely have a huge impact, Kant said with emotion. Indeed, when you're young, you have to show off your abilities. When I was famous in the universe, I was also very young. Now, I have to weigh the pros and cons of everything I do. I don't have the courage to do this. You're too humble. Han Shao smiled. Let's not talk about the small talk. Defeating Garutan is a small matter. The question is, how do you plan to deal with him? Khan was not surprised by this result. Blackstar was in his explosive state, and the battlefield environment was favorable. At the same time, he was also a peak beyond grade A and was not weak. Therefore, defeating another peak beyond grade A was very normal in his eyes. It was far less shocking than defeating the 12 beyond grade as of Radiance and Ethereal. Garutan has no backing, so no one will come to redeem him. I'll keep him as a collection. Beast Ancestor was one of the protectors of the galactic black market. Without a backer at the level of the 3 universal civilizations, there was naturally no need to hand him over. This was also one of the methods the 3 universal civilizations used to attract beyond grade as. No one dared to say that they would never lose. Only with the universal civilization backing them would they feel at ease. Kant nodded and said, "This incident happened suddenly. We couldn't help much, but fortunately, the result wasn't bad. The dynasty will help you deal with the aftermath. The upper echelons of the dynasty will probably come to negotiate with you soon." I know. At this time, Ening left his mount state and returned to his original state, attracting everyone's attention. Han Shao nodded at him in acknowledgement. "Thank you for your help this time. Come back with me later and be a guest at my place."
I'll fulfill my promise. I should be the one thanking you. If not for you, I don't know when I would have discovered this new ability. Although Yining was heavily injured, he was in a good mood because he had developed a new posture. Kohler could not help but ask curiously, Yining, what ability was that just now? Can you show it again? That's a special form that Black Star helped me discover. Yining chatted with the others enthusiastically. Han Xiao watched this scene and nodded. Under my influence, this guy is probably going to start his happy life on the bus ahead of time. However, he owes me a favor for giving him pointers, so the difficulty of privatizing the bus should be much lower. At this time, Han Xiao turned to look at Raven Loudy, who had been silent the whole time. Seeing that he was hesitating, he took the initiative to strike up a conversation. How are you? Are your injuries healed? Almost. Raven Loudy recalled the experience of being beaten up not long ago and looked a little resentful. Thank you for not caring about the past and coming to help this time. Han Xiao smiled. Actually, I didn't help much. You can't say that. If not for your teleportation, the dynasty's reinforcements wouldn't have been able to get here so quickly. Just treat it as me owing you a favor. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Ravenlaud's face, and he felt much better. Although Black Star is annoying sometimes, he's still quite a nice person overall. Sorry, Tai Tai, I might not be able to join the Anti-Black Alliance. You continue to persevere on your own. Suddenly, everyone sensed something and turned to look. They saw that the beast ancestor fleet, which had been watching for a long time, was retreating quickly. They actually watched their leader get killed from the sidelines. What a bunch of subordinates who know how to judge the situation. Kohler shook his head and mocked. Garutin is gone. His forces will probably be divided very soon. Bayoni snorted. But it's a good thing. I've never liked what this guy did. If he didn't buy so many females from the galactic black market, he wouldn't have been able to produce so many offspring. Destroying his forces will at least reduce the human trafficking business in the black market. You're the one with the least right to criticize him here. Han Xiao vaguely remembered that Bayoni also had a huge harem. How can that be the same? I'm choosing for my people, not forcing others. I'm not going to spread my seeds all over the universe. Bayoni was quite proud and felt that he had the moral high ground among the beyond grade, as there were actually quite a few who did not like Garutin's way of doing things. However, due to his strength, no one found fault with him. At this time, seeing that Garutin was defeated by Han Xiao, the dynasty's allies all clapped and cheered. Han Xiao secretly curled his lips, ignored him, and silently opened the mission interface. Including Garutin, he had captured a total of 5 beyond grade which had long reached the target of the additional mission. At this time, the mission was displayed as completed. I have to make good use of the 5 chances to draw abilities. Han Xiao was secretly excited. No matter what, he had to burn incense and fast before calculating the mission rewards. Otherwise, it would be a waste if he drew some useless abilities. Beep beep. His communicator suddenly rang. He glanced at it and saw that it was a call from Unravel. Han Xiao picked it up and replied, Your Excellency, Ruler. I know what happened. The dynasty is negotiating with Radiance and Ethereal. Tell me the details first. Okay, it's like this. Han Xiao told her everything, leaving out some details. Hela actually has such an ability. After hearing Han Xiao, Unravel pondered for a while before suddenly changing the topic. What about you? What price did you pay? Did you really burn your potential? Yes. Han Xiao's expression did not change. How much damage did it cause? I don't know either. Sigh. Unravel was a little regretful. You were too impulsive. You could have wrapped Hela in the space-time amber, and the dynasty would have gone to ransom her. This matter could have been avoided. You're the super with the most potential in history. It's not worth it to make such an unwise move just to vent your anger. No, if I did that, it would be the same as helping the enemy destroy Hela's ability to resist. The uncertainty of ransoming her is too high. Ethereal might not be willing to make the deal and might freeze Hela forever. Radiance would also ask me to unseal the 10,000 deity scepter. Furthermore, Hela isn't the dynasty's ally yet. The dynasty won't be able to justify ransoming her. Hearing this, Urinril frowned slightly. What you're saying is, even if something like this happened, you're still not willing to let Hela join the dynasty. Hela has her own will. You make it sound like I can force her. Han Xiao laughed. Joining the dynasty can prevent something like this from happening again. You should persuade her. I'm sure she doesn't want to see you burn your potential for her a second time, Urinril said. Got it. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. If the dynasty used this reason to persuade Hela, with Hela's personality, she might really agree. Urinril reminded him. Han Xiao shook his head and hung up. Suddenly, a new communication request came in. He took a look. This time, it was from the headquarters. The scene of the Black Star Palace command room appeared. Hela stood at the front, with Ames and Aurora beside her. Around them were many army officers, all looking at Han Xiao with concern. Black Star, are you okay? I'm fine. The matter has been resolved. Garutin has been captured by me. Hela, he's the one who leaked the information and wanted to take revenge on you. You don't have to worry about him now. Han Xiao smiled. Hela pursed her lips with a complicated expression. Black Star had protected her at all costs and even gotten rid of the culprit. Looking at Han Xiao, pretending to be relaxed and imagining how tough of a battle he had gone through, Hela's gratitude was stuck in her throat, and she could not say it out loud. Her words were too light and could not bear the gratitude she felt in her heart. Seeing this, Han Xiao could not help but tease. If you have something to say, just say it. This hesitant look isn't like the Hela I remember. Hela took a deep breath, stared into Han Zhao's eyes, and said word by word, You'll always be my army commander. She did not say any more words of gratitude. It was more like a statement, a declaration, a promise. Hearing this, Han Xiao stopped smiling, looked into Hela's eyes seriously, and nodded slowly. Okay. At this time, Ames opened her mouth and said softly, I heard from Hela that you burned your potential. Don't worry, it's all fake. I didn't lose anything. Ames nodded lightly. In her opinion, this was obviously a white lie that Han Xiao had told to comfort them. She did not expose Han Zhao's good intentions and only remembered it in her heart. By the way, where did Traveler go? Han Xiao remembered something. He ran away, but we also injured him. Hela interrupted. Before he left, he said that our Black Star Corps did not follow the rules and actually ganged up on people who challenged us. Is he really related to this matter? Humph, this guy is quite a drama queen. Let's not bother about him for now. He's just a sh*T-stir at most. We don't have time to deal with him now. We'll talk about it later. Han Xiao sighed in relief. I'll go back first. We'll probably be busy from now on. The entire universe was paying attention to the situation in the flickering world, and this huge piece of news broke out all of a sudden. Without the restriction of distance, it spread like wildfire through all kinds of channels. Everyone who saw the news was so shocked that they were dumbfounded. Radiance and Ethereal gathered 12 beyond grade, as and tried to kill the second-in-command of the Black Star Corps, but they were beaten back by Black Star's main body and even captured a few captives. Not only that, even the beast ancestor of the galactic black market, Garutin, was held responsible by Black Star because he was involved in this matter and was directly captured alive. This meant that Black Star had fought more than a dozen beyond grade as alone, and even one. F***CK, this has to be a joke. So far, all the news that had happened since the opening of the flickering world could not compare to this. The entire universe was shocked. P.S. Pure Xiaolong has started a new book called Demon Descents. It's still very young, and I feel that it's very interesting. If you're interested, you can go and take a look. Introduction. There has always been a legend in this world. One day, the Demon King will descend upon this world. Under the Demon King, there will be 7 terrifying demons. They will bring despair and darkness to this world. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.